When hungry, she waits for others' charity. When tired, she uses the sky as her blanket and the ground as her bed. This is the daily life of a 9-year-old girl. Yet she never complains about her fate, instead remaining cheerful and optimistic. Every day, she actively reads books and newspapers, hoping that one day, she can change her destiny with the knowledge she gains. One day while begging on the street, she saw an elegantly dressed man. The girl, relying on her cuteness, approached him and gently tugged at his clothes. However, at the moment they touched, memories of her past life flooded into her mind like fragments. It turned out that in her previous life, she was sickly, and the hospital was her only home. To pass the time, she could only read novels that interested her. The man before her was Karen, the protagonist of a book. He wasn't just the empire's most handsome man, but also the Duke of the Leyden family, wealthy beyond measure. But in reality, he was a demon who killed without blinking an eye. He came here to hunt down a serial killer, but in the novel, he missed the best opportunity to find the killer. The killer not only successfully hid in the slums but also murdered many people there, including herself and her beggar friends. So to save her own life, the girl anxiously grabbed Karen's clothes again. She told him where the killer was hiding. Initially, Karen didn't believe her words, but the girl's sincere and anxious expression made him inexplicably run into that alley. Sure enough, he successfully caught that man and took out his golden hammer, striking the man's head. This bloody scene was witnessed by the girl who had secretly followed. She trembled in fear, thinking she would also be killed by the man, but unexpectedly, Karen just handed her a business card, telling her to come to the Duke's mansion in a few days to find him. But the girl didn't take this matter to heart. However, a few days later, she saw an advertisement in the newspaper for maid recruitment at the Duke's mansion. So she brought the business card and some picked flowers to apply. But the guard, seeing her ragged clothes, wouldn't let her in. Just then, a voice came from behind her. What's happening here? The little beggar helped the Duke greatly, yet asks for nothing in return. Only wants to stay at the Duke's mansion as a hard-working maid. At least I won't have to sleep on the streets covered in newspapers. She went on and on about her advantages. Though I'm young, I'm very healthy, and I'm very frugal with food. 1 meal a day is enough. I'm also good at mopping floors and washing clothes. Oh, and I'm small, so I can even climb into chimneys to clean them. But everyone remained silent, and she feared they might misunderstand. Gesturing frantically, she explained, though I sleep on the streets, the alley where I sleep is very clean. I definitely don't have any contagious diseases. The Duke's sister asked puzzledly, since my brother owes you a favor, you could have asked for a better reward. Why choose to be a maid? The little beggar lowered her head, clutching her tattered clothes. Because I just want to be normal. I just hope that during the day, I won't be beaten or scolded. The Duke's sister's heart melted completely. She patted the little beggar's head, comforting her. Then what are your salary requirements? The little beggar's eyes sparkled. Does this mean you'll take me? Any amount you want to give is fine. Maybe 1/4 of an adult's salary? How does that sound? No one answered her, so the little beggar carefully added, half of that would be fine too. At that moment, the Duke asked from his high position, how did you know I was chasing the fugitive William? The little beggar was prepared, as if answering an exam question, because I saw him in the alley. That man looked just like the criminal on the wanted poster. The Duke nodded, acknowledging the little beggar's keen observation. Then he asked, but among so many people, why did you specifically ask me for help? The little beggar opened her innocent big eyes. She absolutely couldn't say, I've read this book. I know everything that happens. She played dumb. It was just by chance. I was just looking for someone who could help, and you looked strong, standing out particularly in the crowd. Though I didn't expect you to be a noble. This answer made sense for a child. The Duke then asked, then how did you know I was going to the train station? This question wasn't difficult for the clever little beggar, a well-dressed gentleman, hurrying through a dirty alley. There could only be one reason. You must have wanted to quickly get to the train station in front of the district, and that alley was the shortcut to the train station. The little beggar thought, do I need to answer so many questions just to become a maid? She silently prayed. I don't expect to be a cleaning maid or help in the kitchen. Even if I have to watch the horses, I can accept that. But the Duke coldly announced, we're no longer hiring maids. The little beggar lowered her head in disappointment. However, I'll give you 5 gold coins per week. This sudden fortune made the little beggar uneasy. Could the Duke want to make me into a collection piece? But the next second, the Duke calmly asked, would you like to be my daughter? The little beggar's mind short-circuited for a moment. What kind of maid work does a daughter do? The Duke's sister sitting nearby burst into laughter. The little beggar, with her wit, had helped the Duke find the real culprit. She had hoped to use this chance to stay at the Duke's mansion as a maid, not seeking great wealth, just hoping for a paying job. Who knew the Duke would say, "Be my daughter"? The little beggar hadn't processed it. "Please, what work does a daughter do?" The Duke lowered his head and lifted a strand of the little beggar's hair. "Malnourished, must be properly nourished." He continued coaxing the little beggar. "You're too young. I can't make you work, but I can't bear to see you continue living on the streets. So just stay here." The little beggar understood clearly. If she became the Duke's daughter, she would become the most noble lady in the kingdom, but at the same time, she would have to step into this blood-stained Duke's world. Though unsure if it was fortune or misfortune, she was willing to seize this opportunity. Perhaps this was life's turning point. The little beggar nodded firmly. The Duke sighed in relief. Abduction successful. He asked the butler to take the little beggar to get cleaned up. The Duke's sister found it absurd. "Just decided like that? Brother, do you even know this child's name?" The little beggar also realized belatedly, regretfully tapping her hand. "I'm called Ray. It's the name my mother gave me." Led to the bathroom by the maid, Ray looked around the bathroom in disbelief. It was even larger than the reception room from earlier. She called to the retreating maid, "Can I ask you a question?" The butler seemed a bit embarrassed. "You can ask me after your bath." But Ray insisted, "I just want to ask what it means when the Duke wants me to be his adopted daughter." The butler calmly replied, "It means you'll become the young mistress here." Still confused, "Why would the Duke let an orphan like me into his home? What will I have to do?" The butler understood that Ray was a very clever child without any schemes. Although nobles rarely adopt children, it's not completely without precedent. Some families adopt children to provide companions for their only child, of course. Some do it for charity. They bring orphans home and nurture them to become talented individuals. He told Ray, "Young miss, if you eventually gain the approval of other nobles, they will praise the Duke's kindness in adopting you." The little one thought for a moment. So the best way to repay the Duke was to become an excellent person. In these terrible times with murderers running rampant, weak and helpless, I could only live on the streets, surviving by begging. But at the Duke's mansion, I can have food and education. She convinced herself. Even if the Duke's adoption was just charity, I should still be grateful. Weighing 30 pounds, 10 of which was just dirt on her body. Her hair was black before bathing. After washing, she discovered her hair was actually golden. The little beggar looked at the murky bathwater. Her face reddened with shame. "I'm sorry I made the bathtub dirty." The maid shook her head. "From now on, you're the Duke's young lady. No need to be so polite." The little girl lowered her head, clutching the towel, unable to believe such soft fabric was just for drying off. She lifted her dress and twirled around curiously. The maids all exclaimed at her every move, calling her adorable. The head maid called, "Young miss, your meal is ready in the dining room." She arrived at the luxurious dining room. The table was full of delicious food and wine glasses, but no one was there. She randomly chose a seat, struggling to climb up due to her small size. Looking at the roasted meat before her, thinking these must taste wonderful, her stomach growled. Though the hungry little girl had been homeless for many years, she knew about manners. Wait for everyone to be seated before eating. 20 minutes passed, drool almost forming at her mouth. The dining room remained empty. She was so hungry her eyes were glazing over, almost like a flesh-craving zombie. Taking a piece of soft, cloud-like bread, the girl thought, maybe just a little bite won't hurt. Taking a small bite of the milky bread almost made her dance with joy. She grabbed a chicken leg. "Wow, this is delicious too. So good it makes me want to cry." She ate with great enthusiasm. She didn't notice a boy appear beside her, such a small person, yet eating so much. The girl was so startled she dropped the chicken leg. "When did he arrive?" he added without awkwardness. "You're sitting in my seat." The frightened little beggar, on her first day at the Duke's house, immediately stood up to apologize. "I'm sorry," but she stumbled, almost falling face first onto the table. The boy quickly caught her. He steadied the dazed little one back onto the chair. With a big brotherly manner, he returned to the seat beside her. "Your seat is across from me. That's where you should sit from now on." The brother was kinder than she imagined, but she still didn't dare look at him. The boy was very curious about his new sister. He leaned in to smell her pink hair. "Does it smell like strawberries because it's pink?" the little girl honestly replied. "It's the soap scent." Looking at the empty plates before her, the girl curled her toes in embarrassment. "I'm sorry I ate all your food. Back when I was begging, Even if it was just a small piece of dried dough, everyone would share it. That's what friends do. But now with this table full of food, I only thought of myself. The girl felt guilty. I wanted to be friends with you, but now you probably think I'm just a glutton. The brother didn't think that at all. Don't overthink it. I didn't interrupt you because you look so cute when eating. Your cheeks were all puffed up, just like the cat I used to have. He remembered that cute cat. Whenever it saw food, it would go crazy and could eat so much. The brother mentioned experimenting on the cat. The sister's hands trembled in fear. Will I be turned into a specimen too? The brother seriously described the experiment process. First, I changed its living environment. It was a bit listless at first, so I put it in a warm place, gave it a new bed and medicine, but its time had come, so it still died in the end. The sister realized this wasn't a cruel experiment, but devoted care. Her brother wasn't as cold-blooded as she imagined. She smiled sweetly. That cat must have been very grateful to you. But the brother was curious about his new family member. Why do you want to be friends with me? Ray answered seriously. It's because of you that I can stay here. I'm very grateful to you. The boy remained expressionless. That was my father's decision. Ray shook her head. She understood that if the brother disagreed, the Duke would have sent her away. After all, the brother was the Duke's treasure. The boy thought for a moment, but siblings can't be friends. Ray lowered her head in disappointment. The brother couldn't bear to see her sad. But we can still get along well. You're really interesting when you eat. Ray didn't know how to explain. I won't do that anymore. Actually, she usually didn't eat much. The brother was curious why father would adopt a little beggar. Have you killed someone or done bad things? Ray shook her head vigorously. How could someone as weak as her threaten anyone? But speaking of bad deeds, Ray remembered being falsely accused of stealing a wallet. She had tried to explain that she was just waiting there after finding it, but the owner beat her violently and called her a thief. Ray had felt like dying from the pain, but she casually told her brother, I just got slapped a few times. The brother got a bit angry. Since you were wrongly accused, the person who slapped you is the real villain. Do you remember what they look like? The little girl shook her head. That was a long time ago. The next moment, the brother smiled innocently. Tell me when you remember. I'll help you twist their head off and use it as a ball. The little one was startled. Though she said she'd tell him if she remembered, she actually thought that even if she did remember, she absolutely wouldn't tell him. He was perfect. The Duke's son. Handsome, rich, and elegant. But he enjoyed the pleasure of killing, especially killing those social parasites. He preferred to torture them thoroughly before death, making them experience the same despair as their innocent victims felt before death, trampling this psychopathic killer underfoot, grinding him with their shoes. I heard you killed over 30 people and collected their organs. The Duke spoke coldly, asking the butler, were those collections returned to the victims' families? The butler answered, no. He sneered, why don't we cut you into 30 pieces and send them to the victims' families along with the collections? The butler thoughtfully helped the Duke put on black gloves. My lord, that would indeed be a perfect punishment. The little beggar became the Duke's adopted child. Waking up in a luxurious 100-square-meter bed, she pinched her cheeks. It wasn't a dream after all. Wearing clean clothes, she energetically greeted her brother. Sitting across from her brother at meals, she glanced at the empty main seat. The Duke seems to be absent again today. Brother replied, father is always very busy. He's probably inspecting the territory today. Ray didn't expose her brother's lie. Inspecting the territory was just an excuse to cover up when the Duke was out killing people. I better not ask too much. Though eating alone with brother for several days straight, being stared at intently by brother, Ray worried she might get indigestion. But her hands didn't stop moving. Brother teased, you should learn to chew slowly at the dining table. Ray wiped her mouth. I know. Brother, do you have time to play with me today? He shook his head. I need to go to the academy today. Seeing his sister's disappointed expression, brother looked at the butler, who pulled out a yellow balloon from what seemed like Doraemon's pocket. Ray's eyes instantly lit up. Is this for me? Weren't balloons only for special occasions? She was so happy she cried. Brother sat beside her worriedly. You're crying again. I didn't expect a balloon would make you so happy. He couldn't help but reach out to pat his sister's fluffy head. Ray was moved. Thank you for the gift. I'll keep it with me always. The butler came forward to pour the little one a sweet milk tea, a warm room, and gifts from family. Delicious food. Starting a new day like this was perfect. Ray squinted, wanting to keep this moment of happiness forever in her heart. Auntie was a holy maiden of the temple, pure as a virgin. But when it came to her newly adopted niece, she moved like a startled rabbit, her carriage taking shortcuts, taking the shortest route to stop in front of her niece, then making a flashy entrance, feigning surprise. "Oh my, Ray, what a coincidence meeting you here," the butler helplessly remarked. "It was your carriage that rushed towards us." Auntie completely ignored this, awkwardly changing the subject. "Now, everyone's talking about my brother adopting a girl." The butler was displeased. "Already? We specifically prohibited the press from reporting this." Auntie covered her smile with a fan, laughing meaningfully. "The public's gossip spreads faster than newspapers. After all, every move of the empire's most handsome man, my brother the Duke, affects every young lady's nerves." Auntie bent down to look at her little niece by the butler's side. "Oh my, this dress seems a bit big, and the style is outdated too." Ray was quite satisfied. "Isn't it pretty, Auntie?" she pouted. "I knew it would be like this. We finally have an adorable little lady in the family." Yet nothing proper was prepared for her. Learning that brother wasn't home, Auntie smiled brightly. "Then I'll take my little niece with me first." Despite the butler's objections, she forcefully took the adorable Ray away. "And don't call me madam. Don't call me Maria Ann." In the carriage, Auntie couldn't stop praising her little niece. "You were so cute when I first saw you, and now you've become even prettier." Holding the balloon from her brother, Ray blushed at the compliment. "Lady Maria Ann, you're the true beauty." Auntie was delighted. "Such sweet words," she said, then pulled out her fairy happiness cigarette. Ray's mouth trembled in shock. "Auntie, aren't you a holy maiden?" Seeing her niece cover her nose, Auntie quickly extinguished it. "Sorry, I shouldn't smoke in front of you." Then gently patted Ray's little head. The carriage arrived at the city center. Ray stared intently at the toy store outside the window. For her former self, just being able to look at the toy store from afar was satisfying enough, because whenever she got close to the store entrance, the owner would chase away the little beggar. Ray remembered once when the store owner forgot to turn off the display window lights at closing time. When she sneaked over to look in the early morning, the sight before her made her feel like she was in heaven. That day, Ray stood in front of the display window all night. Now Ray was thinking, since she was with Auntie, maybe she could enter the toy store. Being stroked by Auntie's warm hand felt so comfortable she wanted to roll around in joy. She had a cool aunt whose main job was being a holy maiden. But that didn't stop Auntie from smoking, drinking, and getting perms. Auntie didn't have any noble interests. When happy, she'd just spend money shopping. Just as they entered the clothing store, 3 clerks rushed to serve them. The big spender must be well served. But today Auntie wasn't buying clothes for herself, but for the little one hiding behind her. The little niece greeted them nervously. The clerks were very tense. Realizing she was the recent center of gossip, the Duke's adopted child, she sensitively noticed the clerks' unfriendly gazes, quietly hiding more behind Auntie. Auntie noticed this, and her aura changed from gentle to, "Well, let's see how you plan to earn this money." But the little niece nervously grabbed Auntie's dress. "No, that's too much." But Auntie didn't mind. "First shopping trip should cost this much. Don't worry about it." The girl was so anxious she almost cried. "If I spend too much money, what if the Duke kicks me out?" She hadn't noticed the enthusiastic clerks already swarming around, taking away the balloon in her hand. "We'll take care of this for you, dear." Ray was reluctant to let go. It was from her brother after all. What if it flew away? But the clerks were too eager. They dragged Ray away, draping colorful fabrics over the little girl. But Auntie shook her head, unsatisfied. "Do you have anything more expensive? These don't suit her status as a duke's daughter, and these styles are already outdated. How could you give such an adorable child outdated clothes?" Ray crouched on the chair, looking small, pitiful, and helpless. Auntie finally chose a dress. Ray didn't dare delay and followed the salesgirl into the fitting room. Only then did she realize the dress was a princess gown. She was too scared to breathe. Suddenly, a sharp voice came from next door. "Don't touch me. Just let my maid attend to me." Then came a sour comment. "I really don't understand, Duke. I'm about to become the Duchess." Yet he picked up some wild girl as his daughter. That girl isn't like young Master Jade, who has dark mage bloodline. Ray felt dejected, lowering her head as she heard the lady continue. "Education is also a headache. How can we possibly make her presentable?" The sycophant suggested. "You could arrange her marriage early. Send her to the countryside." The blonde lady laughed wickedly. "Not a bad idea. She better be pretty though. Who would want to marry an ugly woman? If she turns out to be ugly, we can just sell her to the circus." Ray heard all these malicious words. Actually, when she was a beggar, she met many such people who would look at her with disgust. She consoled herself that it didn't matter. "I don't care." Auntie had been waiting outside for a while. Her praise instantly cleared away Ray's gloom. Brother had given her an inexpensive balloon, which she held tightly, promising to take it to her grave. But as soon as she entered the clothing store, the staff took it away. Though the balloon was tied securely by the window, she still felt uneasy. The balloon was the first gift she'd ever received. She checked again with her eyes. In the blink of an eye, the balloon had vanished. The window was open. Ignoring her fancy dress, she rushed out the door. Looking around, there was no trace of the balloon. She lowered her head in disappointment. Just then, a hand reached out from the alley toward her small body. "Young lady, you look noble-born. Would you like your fortune told? Your hair color is so beautiful." Then that hand reached for her. She felt goosebumps all over. The damp, cold touch made Ray step back repeatedly. Taking advantage of their distraction, she quickly turned and ran. Thanks to years of street life, she could run quite fast. Panting, she lost them 3 blocks away. Leaning against a wall to rest, she realized she was in front of the antique toy store she'd longed for. This used to be her heaven, but now she didn't covet it anymore. These toys, because Brother's balloon was more precious. Ray suddenly realized she had accidentally run out wearing the unpaid dress from the store. She pushed through the crowd, thinking she must hurry back, but she got lost. Ray silently sobbed in the street. Then a familiar dark shadow caught her eye. It drew her attention. It was the Duke's presence. The next moment, the Duke stepped down from his carriage in shiny leather shoes. He joked, "Running away from home so soon?" Looking her up and down, the Duke made sure she was unharmed. Then he held the little one in his arms to comfort her. The little one nervously explained how she got lost. "But how did you recognize me when you last saw me? I was so messy, usually cold to others." The Duke now gently praised. "I saw an angel standing by the roadside. When I got closer, I realized it was you." The little one blushed, thinking admiringly how noble-like he was. Such a smooth talker. The Duke carried Ray back to the clothing store. The staff rushed out anxiously. "Miss, you suddenly disappeared. We were so worried. If we couldn't find you, we would have called the police." The staff apologized hurriedly. A customer asked to open the window. "That's why your balloon flew away." The one who had bullied Ray now appeared before the Duke with a coy expression. "Your Grace, we haven't seen each other in a while. By the way, who is this child?" He spoke gently to the adopted girl. "We're family now." But she tightly covered her nose with a fan, disgusted by the non-existent poor smell on the girl. The girl was sensitive. She knew her adoptive mother disliked her. When the Duke wasn't present, she had heard her adoptive mother talk about selling her to the circus. But in front of the Duke, the adoptive mother thoughtfully suggested, "Have you found a tutor for her? I know a very strict teacher." Sometimes they even use physical discipline to educate children. If that teacher teaches her, she'll be completely transformed. She deliberately tapped her fan loudly, making the girl's face turn pale. The Duke said nothing, just placed Ray on a chair, then unexpectedly asked, "Who am I?" Ray tilted her head. "You're the Duke." The Duke was dissatisfied. "No, I'm your father. Call me Papa." Ray instantly blushed, too shy to say those words. The adoptive mother watched impatiently from the side. The father-daughter relationship seemed better than she had imagined. Suddenly the Duke said, "Do me a favor. Tell this woman to get out immediately." The adoptive mother was shocked, playing dumb. "What do you mean?" The Duke cruelly repeated. "Don't you understand? I mean disappear from my sight right now and never show yourself before me again. To put it more plainly, get out now. You should understand now." The adoptive mother fainted in her maid's arms, her lips trembling with anger, as if not recognizing this heartless man. But Ray thought the Duke had always been like this. A dark person wasn't really a good person. Though feeling schadenfreude inside, she seemed quite happy. She looked sympathetically at her adoptive mother. "Now not Miss Roger." Sighing inwardly, "How pitiful." The Duke whispered in her ear, "Child, say goodbye to Roger. You'll never see her again." The little one said the cruel truth in a sweet voice. "Goodbye, Auntie." The Duke was satisfied, stroking his obedient daughter's head. "Good girl, you can learn slowly. Gradually you'll become more and more like a noble lady." Ray fixed her hair that the Duke had messed up, then gave Roger one final blow. "I'm glad I'm not as beautiful as you. If I were as beautiful as you, I'd have to marry early, right? Or I might have been sold to the circus." The beautiful Roger burst out angrily. "How dare you eavesdrop on me?" She clearly admitted to having said she would sell the young girl. The Duke stood in front of Ray. "Don't you understand what jurisdiction means?" Having lost love, Roger completely lost her senses. "Jurisdiction? This isn't your estate?" The Duke sighed deeply. "Don't you know I bought this entire street?" The spoiled Roger started acting coy and innocent again. "Your Grace, aren't we dating? How could you say such things? The next second, the Duke held her hand, making Roger's hopes rise again. However, the Duke merely took her hand to throw her outside. We only had a few meals together. How is that dating? You're being too presumptuous. If you really want to think that way, then consider it as you dumping me. Please leave before I call the guards. The brother severely criticized his sister. You're wearing this dress for the second time. Has our family become this poor? Seeing her brother about to ramble on, she quickly moved forward like a blur to stop him. Stop, don't say any more. This makes me lose face in front of my niece. She pointed to the mountain of shopping bags, proudly saying, those are all what I bought for my niece. Ray suddenly felt immense pressure. Having just arrived in this family, she wasn't used to this way of spending, but the Duke's siblings paid no attention. The Duke asked his sister how much she spent in total. Hearing it was only 100 gold coins, the Duke was very dissatisfied. Don't you know how to spend? These silks and jewels aren't enough. You should have asked for their most expensive silk. Ray was so frightened she broke into a sweat, hurriedly declining these high-end fabrics. Actually, I'm fine wearing Auntie's childhood clothes. Don't we have 5 sets at home? Auntie didn't understand. Just 5 sets? That won't even fill the closet. The Duke also smiled while patting Ray's head. Children shouldn't worry about how adults spend money. Then continued discussing Ray's clothes. You only prepared 20 sets? Not enough. Have them bring everything out. Only Ray kept stomping her feet. Don't these adults know how to save money? With no choice, she had to use her trump card. She pretended to be dizzy. Oh, I'm so tired. I can't even keep my eyes open. How about the clothes? The Duke sighed. Well, can't be helped. Put the remaining clothes back. Ray secretly showed a smug expression, giggling to herself. At the store entrance, Auntie lifted her skirt and got into the carriage. She didn't forget to remind Ray, next time we'll play together again. Remember? The Duke was unhappy. No, you don't know how to take care of children. Without my permission, you can't take her out. Auntie didn't mind, sitting in the departing carriage, still leaning out the window nostalgically. Goodbye. Next time you must call me Maria Ann, and just ignore what my brother said. Ray and the Duke also prepared to board their carriage home. The little one was still worried. The balloon brother gave her was lost. How should she explain it to him? Just then, a red-haired woman suddenly appeared behind them. With a pale face, she reached out. Please help me. After saying these words, she collapsed. The Duke instinctively reached out to catch her. In Ray's impression, brother was cold-blooded, father was unsympathetic, but since she came to this family, brother had changed. He would sit on the stairs waiting for his sister to come home for dinner together. Father also often teased him, saying he looked as cute as an angel, shining brightly among the crowd. Father specially went to pick up his daughter, yet joked with the butler that this daughter was found on the roadside. How did father change from a cold prince to a funny man? She was a bit confused, but when she saw her brother, she lowered her head guiltily. Sorry brother, I lost the first balloon you gave me. She explained the process of losing it bit by bit. Brother listened patiently while admiring his sister's tearful expression, then patted her fluffy little head to comfort her. We can buy another balloon. Why cry over such a small thing? Did you like that balloon so much? Seeing his sister still upset, brother took the initiative this time. When I have time, I'll take you boating to cheer you up. Ray looked up in amazement. Isn't brother very busy? And since when did he learn to comfort people? Even more unexpected was when brother reached out his hand saying, come on, I'll take you to your room. She still remembered the first day she came to the family, when brother was so rejecting. Compared to now, he seemed like a completely different person. Ray wiped her tears forcefully. Smiling brightly, she took a comfortable hot bath that eased her nervous mood. Sitting together with brother and father, listening to the gramophone music, father and brother were drinking wine. She curiously asked brother, how old are you? When she got the answer, 14 years old, Ray's mouth couldn't close. I thought you were 17. Can you drink wine? You're not even of age yet. Brother waved his hand. It's fine. Our family has special privileges regarding medicine and drinking. Just as the little one was about to say something, father quickly stopped her. No, you're too young. Wait until you're half as tall as your brother. Ray pondered thoughtfully. She touched her head. Father and brother were curious about what she was doing. Ray smiled happily, thinking patting her head would help her grow faster. If this little beggar hadn't been adopted by the Duke, her original fate would have been to be kidnapped, locked in a cage, and die from blood loss after having her left arm cut off. But now she sat on the soft sofa in the Duke's mansion, knowing her original fate. Her back turned cold, her hands nervously gripped her dress. Father, brother, and the butler all surrounded her, looking at her with concern. When learning today was August 9th, Ray became more nervous. She tightly held her hand that the kidnapper had grabbed, her face pale. This was the day she was supposed to be killed. Ray didn't want to keep living in fear. She had to actively find the killer. She remembered that murderer liked to target women with red hair, so she grabbed the Duke's sleeve. Your Grace, about those cases you mentioned earlier, if they were premeditated murders, might there be other commonalities? For example, did those women all like fortune-telling? The Duke didn't understand why she would think of fortune-telling. The little one's expression was serious, because fortune-telling shops are almost all in the slums. Even nobles would visit famous fortune-tellers. People usually go to restaurants or clothing stores that match their status. Only fortune-telling places gather people from all walks of life. The Duke suddenly understood the connection. He called the butler, preparing to investigate further. Leigh covered her mouth, her mind tormented. She finally couldn't hold on anymore. She collapsed on the sofa. Once again, she dreamed of her original fate. That serial killer, wearing a red wig and women's rings, sawing off her left arm. Ray's green pupils lost their luster. She didn't dare cry out in pain, silently clenching her fists. Better to just kill me directly. Just then, the Duke appeared. He used black magic to firmly restrain the killer, then opened the cage and hugged poor Ray. Just as he was about to take her to see a doctor, an arrow pierced through the Duke's heart. Ray watched helplessly as the person who saved her fell before her eyes, and the culprit who tortured her, stroking his chin, made her sick to her scalp. Waking up from the dream, Leigh didn't think it was just an empty dream. Her whole body was soaked, all in cold sweat. Finally, with a trembling body, she couldn't speak a word. The Duke sat beside her, patting her trembling shoulders to comfort her. Are you all right? Leigh covered her nauseous face, thinking with an ashen expression about being involved in this case. If the Duke goes to investigate, he would fall into a coma after being shot by the poisoned arrow. Although afterward, the country's most famous doctors and priests would treat him, he would still remain unconscious. The Duke was reading documents. His little daughter grabbed his arm, crying with teary eyes, pleading with a worried tone. Your Grace, I beg you, please don't look for the killer. After acting coquettishly, the little girl immediately felt disgusted by her own sweet tone. The Duke was also shocked with a huge question mark above his head. The documents fell directly to the ground. She wasn't being unreasonable, but she knew the Duke's secret. Once he goes to find the serial killer, he would be struck by a poisoned arrow in the heart. Ray's eyes were swollen like kiwis as she said, I dreamed that your Grace was seriously injured. My dreams are usually accurate, so I'm really scared now. Can you stay with me? Even if just for tonight. She carefully observed, and found that everyone was silent. She hoped her willfulness this time would make everyone take it seriously. Unexpectedly, the Duke actually nodded in agreement. All right, I'll stay home tonight. After all, helping you calm down is the most important thing right now. Leigh wiped her tears and asked, aren't you angry? Won't you throw me out for being willful? Hearing the Duke's gentle no, Leigh felt the weight lift from her heart. She couldn't hold back anymore and started crying. Brother gently stroked her head sympathetically. Crybaby, stop crying. But the more she was comforted, the harder Leigh cried. Finally, she cried until she started coughing. The Duke firmly ordered the butler, quick, bring some sedatives. The butler immediately glided out the door. Brother gently patted the tearful Leigh. After a while, the little one's face was red, thinking about what she had just done, especially with brother watching her so closely, worried that something might happen to her. Just then, the butler came in with medicine. The cup was the same as Ray's trembling one, but she didn't want surgery for nothing. As long as the Duke stays with me, it's fine. The cunning butler scared her. You better behave. Weren't you feeling nauseous earlier? If your stomach gets hurt, we'll have to cut open your belly for surgery. Do you want surgery? Ray gripped the cup tightly and lowered her head nervously. I'll never have surgery in this life. So she drank the medicine in one gulp. It was so bitter she almost spat it out. The butler gently wiped the corners of her mouth. Brother quickly took out a candy. Leigh, being cared for so meticulously, said embarrassedly, I can do it myself. The Duke still thanked him, but she couldn't sleep alone. Leigh insisted, no, today I must stay by your side. Her small hands patted the blanket forcefully. The Duke was somehow amused by Leigh's behavior. Was that cute gesture meant to threaten me? And we're not even blood related, yet you're so attached to me. How wonderful. The Duke patted the blanket. Go to sleep, but Leigh firmly shook her head. No, I'm not sleepy at all. If I fall asleep, Father will leave to find the serial killer. For Father's safety, she threw a tantrum, deliberately being willful, insisting Father sleep with her. After achieving her goal, She fought hard against sleepiness. Tonight I absolutely can't let my guard down. But when father lay on the bed and said, "I'll sleep with you," the little one compromised, but she still seriously declared, "I'm just lying here. I won't fall asleep." Father smiled knowingly. Then he called to Ray, "Jade, you lie down too." Brother initially refused, but seeing his sister's expectant, glowing eyes, he unconsciously lay down too. Lay felt so happy, having brother and father sleeping with her. She surely wouldn't have nightmares. When the room's lights turned off, Lay stared at the ceiling thinking, "We really look like a family like this. What does it mean to be an adopted daughter? Can I treat them as my real family?" As she thought about these things, she began to doze off. Lay was puzzled. How strange. I was so energetic just now. Brother reminded her, "Did you forget you just took medicine?" Father patted her blanket again. Under the rhythmic patting, Ray yawned repeatedly. She realized she'd been tricked by father and brother. In her last moments before sleep, she kept mumbling to father, "You won't go anywhere else, right? You can't leave me here, just because I fell asleep." In her final moment before entering dreamland, she optimistically thought about going to the police tomorrow. If they caught the criminal, the Duke wouldn't get hurt. But as soon as Lay fell asleep, the Duke got up and left, leaving only his son to watch over her. The adopted daughter strongly disapproved of father breaking his promise. As the butler helped the Duke put on his coat, he chuckled. "Jade seems to like that child very much." Under cover of night, the Duke took his cane and set out to find the killer. When Lay woke up in the morning, it was already too late. Only brother remained, sleeping on the sofa. She shook her brother for help. "Oh, I should have stayed awake. I knew father's words couldn't be trusted." She anxiously asked, "Brother, can you ride a horse? Can you help me? I'll repay you. I'll do anything." Jade hesitated for a moment, then agreed to his sister's request. But he didn't expect his sister to be so urgent, with her tiny body pulling him, urging him to hurry. But before he could leave, a horse blocked their way. The horse was so tall. She watched her handsome brother mount it in one smooth motion. Her cheeks flushed red, eyes filled with tears, and brother only used one hand, pulled her onto the horse. Brother was so cool. Why does horseback riding look so elegant in TV dramas? But real horseback riding is so painful? Sitting on the horse's back, she felt like her bottom would split in two, and she was getting motion sickness. Her vision became blurry. Whatever brother said, she couldn't hear any of it. Despite feeling terrible, she endured it. She had to save father. The horse ran faster and faster. She finally arrived at the serial killer's house. The hot sweat from running mixed with cold sweat from fear on her face. But she had no time to wipe it away. Must hurry. Find father. Her small body pressed forward without hesitation. Even with unknown dangers ahead, she never hesitated. Brother grabbed her hand, curiously asking how she knew the killer was here. He had many questions he wanted to ask, but seeing his sister's pleading look not to ask, he could only sigh, suppressing his questions. Following someone's words for the first time, at the killer's doorstep, Lay carefully listened for any movement. There was no sound at all. Could the Duke already be harmed? She remembered the novel's plot. There were ambushes in the room. That killer might have pupils. Even if the Duke was strong, he couldn't withstand hidden weapons and guns. She carefully instructed Jade, "If when we open the door, someone's by it, rush and attack them." Though her tone was calm, her trembling hands revealed her fear of the killer. But she told herself to stay strong. Don't let the Duke get hurt. She overcame her fear and cleanly opened the door. The psychopathic killer had already been subdued by the Duke, neck tightly held, unable to move. This scene was too bloody for children. When the Duke discovered the two children behind him, he quickly ordered his son to take Yang Yu away. Brother covered her eyes, but she struggled. No, there must be an archer pupil here. The next second, she saw the dying killer move his finger. This further confirmed her suspicion. It must be a trap. She broke free from brother's hand, shouting, "Duke, this is definitely a trap," then ran towards him. Too late to pull him away. Lay jumped with all her might, taking the arrow meant for the Duke, falling softly into his arms. Brother anxiously ran towards her. Father gently held her. She gasped heavily, crying out in pain uncontrollably. The worried looks of the Duke and brother reminded her of her past life. From this same angle, seeing father and brother's concerned faces. Except then, her surgery had failed, and she couldn't say goodbye to family. This time she seized the chance, speaking two words she hadn't said in this world. "Father, I'm sorry." The Duke's eyes widened. He somewhat hated himself. How could this child from the past approach him with purpose? This daughter with no blood relation, would actually take an arrow for him. He had always been confident in his abilities. Kill gods who stand in the way. Kill Buddhas who block the path. But at the moment his adopted daughter fell, he felt he was nothing. Why couldn't he detect that dangerous arrow earlier? Why didn't he kill the murderer immediately? Why did he have to play cat and mouse, enjoying the pleasure of watching the opponent's death struggle? Father and son desperately held Lei's body. Just then, the butler appeared. He came to handle the scene as instructed by the Duke, but he was late because the young lady and young master had suddenly disappeared from the mansion. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to find the two he was looking for right here. What had happened here? Holding his adopted daughter's small body. This heartache the Duke had only felt once before, when his mother died. Since childhood, the Duke was despised by the old Duke, because he was the source of the family curse. But at the same time, the old Duke deeply envied his son's superior abilities. His twisted psychology made him cruel to his young son. It was the Duke's mother who always stood in front of him. Mom will always love you. I'm sorry I'm too weak. So when his mother was murdered and the killer left golden thread flowers, he vowed to find the killer. The second time Lei appeared before him, she was holding golden thread flowers. The Duke had suspected that Lei was either the mother's killer's accomplice or their next target. With impure motives, he adopted Lei. Despite this, he still cherished this poor little one, but that was limited to the fondness one has for pets. Yet today, when Lei not only witnessed him killing, but didn't hate him, took an arrow for him, and painfully called him father, he included Lei in his family circle. The Duke coldly instructed the butler. 7. Catch that worm on the ground. The butler's usually smiling face showed a sinister expression. Yes, Duke. Maintaining his composure, he then instructed his son Jade. I need to stop the bleeding. She might bite her tongue from the pain, so just in case, put something in her mouth. Jade immediately tore off his sleeve. The Duke used black magic. Black butterflies appeared in his hand, then surrounded Lei's body. Though unconscious, she still shuddered physiologically, then became peaceful, looking much better than before. The Duke sighed in relief. At least the bleeding had stopped. 7. Take her to a safe place. The butler tightened his grip on the killer. Then, shall we take the young lady to the Duke family's hotel? It's not far. Yong Yu's life hung in the balance. The Duke's expression was calm, but the next moment, he told the doctor, if this child dies, I'll make sure all doctors join her in death. The elderly doctor bowed nervously. We'll do our absolute best. I apologize. Sitting by Yong Yu's bedside, the Duke stroked her hair, thinking, since you called me father, then we are family now. Then holding Lei's hand, even if you bear someone else's mark, I don't care. I will take you for myself, make you my child. Holding Lei's hand tightly, the Duke seriously told her, after you wake up, I will change my teaching methods. I will raise you to be a selfish person. Even if I'm shot by arrows or stabbed by knives in front of you, you must remain expressionless. He gently kissed his daughter's fingertips. The Duke devoutly prayed for her to wake up soon. Soon, all famous doctors in the country were summoned, not for a medical conference, but at the Duke's adopted daughter's bedside, quietly discussing how to wake her up. The maid thoughtfully drew the curtains to prevent the light from being too harsh on the young lady. They treated her as if she were awake, not as a comatose patient. The usually composed butler of 20 years was restless because the young lady remained unconscious. Even disregarding professional etiquette, he asked his master for the first time, "How is the young lady?" The Duke answered while drinking, "The doctors say her life isn't in danger." "What about Jade?" The butler first brought wine to the Duke, then answered, "Young master insists on waiting until the surgery is over, but he seems to be struggling. He's resting in his room now. It's the first time I've seen young master so unsettled." The Duke swirled the mood steadying red wine. "I understand him. Has anyone come from the temple? The high priest should know pain-relieving magic." The butler sighed helplessly. "I've contacted them, but the palace is holding a temple celebration today. Most high priests are at the palace. They said they'll send someone after the celebration." The Duke's expression darkened as he took a sip of the calming wine. "Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Relay it word for word to the king. If he doesn't immediately send all priests here, I will go to the palace myself, and make the first royal family member I encounter experience firsthand the pain my daughter is enduring right now." Sister remained unconscious. Brother sat dejectedly on a stool by the bed. He thought about preserving his sister as a specimen, just like they did with Bobo. Bobo was a winged cat, with transparent blue eyes. A gift from father. It wasn't an ordinary cat, but a chimera. A chimera is a magical creature that shares its life with its master. Whether it's the master or the chimera, if one is injured or dies, the other is affected too. Bobo curiously sniffed brother's nose, not rejecting this human. That day, father told his son, "You are its master. Take care of it as you would yourself." Later when he grew up, he learned there were no chimeras. It was all father's lie. Sister now looked just like the cat did before death. Brother touched sister's lifeless face, remembering how happy she was when he first gave her a balloon. He silently prayed to see her laughing and talking again. Brother was somewhat jealous of father. Why would sister rather get hurt herself to save father? How strange. Why does my heart ache? Brother clutched the bedsheet and collapsed beside his sister. When Lei woke up, she heard doctors crying nearby. "Please wake up, young lady. I still want to see my granddaughter. If you don't wake up, the Duke will make us join you." She looked at the unfamiliar ceiling. "Where am I? Why can't I make a sound? Am I dead again? Is this the afterlife?" She clutched the bedsheet anxiously, then turned her head, and found her sleeping brother beside her. Lei excitedly sat up. "This means I'm still alive in this world." But she looked at her brother puzzled. "Why is he sleeping here though?" Brother was awakened by the rustling of the blanket. He propped up his head and gently said, "Hello, princess. You're finally awake. I've been waiting for so long." Lei smiled, though she still couldn't speak, so she waved her arms up and down, gesturing, "Look, I survived. How lucky. I didn't die from that poisoned arrow that almost killed the Duke." Brother immediately noticed his sister couldn't speak. He quickly poured a glass of water and placed it in Lei's hands. "Don't rush. Drink slowly." With her parched throat relieved, the little one sighed contentedly. She had been unconscious for 7 days, and the doctors were extremely anxious. "Young lady, if you hadn't woken up, the Duke would have made us join you." The weak, pitiful, and helpless doctors huddled together for comfort. Just then, the Duke's son suddenly pulled open the curtains. The little one peeked out from behind her brother. "Thank heavens the young lady is awake." They shed tears of joy. "We're saved." But when did young Duke sneak in? Jade remained expressionless. "That's none of your business." Lei silently sighed. Brother must have snuck in without anyone knowing. Brother began explaining to his sister. These doctors initially diagnosed it as just a normal arrow wound, and because the Duke stopped the bleeding in time, the wound wasn't serious. But later they discovered anesthetic on the arrow. That type of drug was hard to detect, which is why the doctors didn't notice it at first. Brother watched over her day and night, worried that even trace amounts of anesthetic could worsen her condition. Lei's face turned ashen. It was truly fortunate she survived, but brother wasn't happy. "You were poisoned. Is that something to be thankful for? Brother's still worried about me?" Optimistic Lei quickly changed the subject. "Dear brother, I mean, the anesthetic could have kept me asleep forever, but thanks to my luck, I woke up." Seeing her brother's expression soften, Lei breathed a sigh of relief, then pointed at the frantic doctors. "But why did they need saving?" Jade explained expressionlessly. "You were unconscious for a week straight. Father was furious because of this. He kept pacing the hallway, muttering, 'I hate it most when people sacrifice themselves for me. If anything happens to her, I'll go mad and take it out on someone.'" But Lei didn't think the Duke was threatening. She believed he was just worried about her. Brother pulled out a box from under the bed. "Anyway, father and I agreed that if you hadn't woken up today, we would punish those useless doctors." Who would receive punishment? Lei thought. Surely it would just be some ordinary punishment game. She was too naive. He pulled out a paper with a death skull drawn on it. She was too scared to speak. Brother announced without emotion, "Congratulations on winning." The Duke's family wielded absolute power. Even the emperor had to flatter him with massages. When his daughter was injured, the emperor immediately summoned the country's 7 best doctors without hesitation. It wasn't exactly kidnapping though. After the young lady woke up, the doctors composed themselves after their tearful display. "Excuse us, may we examine the young lady? With Duke Xiao's permission?" The full examination began. After the examination, the chief physician breathed a sigh of relief. "You're fine now. The shoulder wound isn't serious. We'll do another check in the afternoon." Brother was still worried, staring intently at the doctor. "You won't misdiagnose this time, right?" The elderly doctor trembled. "No, we won't make any mistakes." The renowned doctors abandoned their dignity, bowing and scraping like servants. "Young lady is truly the luckiest person in the world. If anything went wrong, the consequences would be unimaginable." They looked at Duke Xiao with hopeful expressions. He nodded. "You're lucky. I had already prepared the drawing lots materials. I'll let you off this time." The doctors all sighed in relief. Once they left, Lei tugged at her brother's collar asking, "Why did the doctors say I was lucky? What happened while I was unconscious?" Jade asked Lei to sit down. Don't rush. I was about to tell you. Remember that fortune-telling shop? It had all kinds of traps. The arrow you were hit with was one of them. If the fortune-teller turned his ring to the right, it would shoot a poisoned arrow. To the left, an anesthetic arrow. Father had grabbed the criminal's neck, and in panic, he triggered the mechanism. If he had turned the ring to the right then, it would have been a poison arrow. You would have died for sure. The anesthetic arrow was meant for Mother. He wouldn't kill Sean immediately, but torture him slowly. Lei clenched her fingers, still shaken. How terrifying. Brother quickly stroked her head to comfort her. But it's all fine now. Father has severely punished him. When his daughter was injured, bringing in famous doctors wasn't enough. He summoned all the priests, forbade them from working, and made them stay by my daughter's bedside, continuously casting pain relief magic. Lei felt guilty. Aren't magic users supposed to be noble? And I'm just an adopted daughter? Brother patted her head comfortingly. Don't worry. Aunt is a saint. If you feel bad, you can donate more money to the temple later. Solving problems with money, that's how rich people think. She didn't understand and felt confused. Stroking his sister's round little head, Brother asked softly, "Why did you take the arrow for Father? If Father had been hit with that anesthetic arrow, he would have been fine. Why did you block it?" But to Lei, Father was family. How could she watch family get hurt? Even if it was just an anesthetic arrow, if it hit the heart, it could have been serious. Anyway, everyone survived. Isn't that good? Brother's eyes widened. He had underestimated her all along. You're really amazing. Though small in size, you're braver than anyone I know. She felt a bit embarrassed by the praise, but she waved it off. You're exaggerating. I just didn't want the princess to get hurt, and I didn't want to see you and she went sad. Brother squinted his eyes, knowing his sister wasn't telling everything, but he was still happy. Then Brother mentioned the fortune-telling cards incident again. It made him break into a cold sweat. He couldn't possibly say that he had already read all those wrong contents before. To change the subject, he started acting up. Jade, I'm hungry and sleepy now. His whole body went limp. Brother worriedly called servants to prepare food. He felt relieved, but he was actually hungry. After eating, he looked satisfied. His cheeks became rounder. He casually asked where the Duke was. Brother was quite perceptive, saying Father had gone home. I'll send someone to call him. Lei felt unworthy to summon the Duke. He jumped on his brother shouting, "No need. It's fine. There's nothing important. Let's not disturb him." Lei's face turned pale, cold sweat flowing, body trembling uncontrollably. Having witnessed the Duke killing someone, would he be silenced too? But Brother didn't understand. What do you mean by, "it's fine"? Frightened, Lei hurriedly explained, I'd be happy if the Duke comes, but he's busy. It's fine if he can't come. Seeing his sister's cautious behavior, Jade quickly lowered his head to look at her. You don't think Father hasn't visited you? Getting only one response from his sister. Brother angrily pinched her chubby cheeks. Silly, Father comes to see you every day. He's just temporarily away. Covering her injured little face, she thought, the Duke comes every day? Since he visits me, he must not be very angry. Maybe my life is safe after all. If the Duke knew his daughter's true thoughts, would he be furious about her thinking he'd kill her to silence her? When he first saw the little beggar, he had pushed her away without mercy. But now, because of an unverified guess, my adopted daughter might be in danger. He was unusually flustered, face covered in cold sweat, urging the coachman to hurry faster, then rushed into the hospital. With a bang, he pushed open the door. The noise was so loud it practically made Lei jump off the bed. Lei peeked from behind the bed as the Duke and butler appeared, panting. Before they could speak, their faces were covered in sweat. What have they been doing? The Duke's expression was so serious. Lei thought he must be angry. What to do? How to explain why she was at the murder scene? Lei shut her eyes tight, not knowing how to face the Duke. But surprisingly, she found herself in a warm embrace. Stunned, she heard the Duke say, "Child, Dad's here. I'm sorry. Something came up outside, so I'm late. I'm glad you're okay. I was really worried." Lei was moved, green eyes staring at the Duke. So this is what it feels like to be cared for. When she was living on the streets, no matter how uncomfortable or hungry she felt, she endured it, though she had many friends. When sick she could only take care of herself, but she shook her head vigorously. No, if I get used to being cared for and develop expectations, she should scold herself for secretly watching his work. Don't you have questions for me? I snuck out at night without telling you. In the tense moment waiting for an answer, Lei saw the Duke take out a flower. Isn't this the flower that the Duke brought the first time? I just thought it was beautiful. I know nothing else about it. The Duke sighed. About the killer's clues. Lei truly knew nothing. He reached out to touch Lei's forehead. I'm grateful you saved me. But don't do this again. I am your guardian. You are my daughter. A father has the duty to protect his children, so never sacrifice yourself for me. Not for me. Not for anyone. Lei felt comfortable being petted, but wanted to object. In the end, she could only obediently agree. The butler smiled contentedly, but she quickly realized the Duke must have said that because he was worried about her. She showed a silly smile. The Duke felt something was off. He shook her firmly. Why do you look so foolish? The doctor said that after you wake up, you wouldn't be in danger. Were they lying to me? For the doctor's safety? Lei quickly explained. No. I just suddenly relaxed and my reactions are a bit slow. Strangely, the Duke said to Lei, don't you have questions for me? Who I killed? How I killed them? Aren't you curious about these things? Lei wasn't scared at all. After serious thought, probably because they were bad people. After all, Lin wouldn't hurt innocent people. His daughter saw him kill someone, but instead of running away screaming, she treated it as casually as eating or drinking. He was too shocked to speak. Her brother thought his sister was very brave. Such a small person, yet braver than adults. Taking an arrow for her father. Now the Duke thought this daughter was too clever. Just from scattered documents in the room, she deduced the first crime scene. Even more amazing, the butler said the young lady couldn't read. Oh no. Would her identity as a transmigrator be exposed? She hurriedly explained, though I can't read. I used to live nearby, so I memorized almost all the signs around. The fortune-telling shop was just 2 streets away from where I lived. There lived a tall, creepy-looking fortune teller. There were even rumors that to maintain his abilities, he would eat children. I saw those 3 papers with familiar patterns. That's when I thought of the place all those women had visited. It must be that fortune-telling shop. So I woke brother up and insisted he take me there. What if the fortune teller had captured you too? The Duke still couldn't believe it. Could the little beggar I picked up actually be a genius? Anyway, Lei had managed to get through this, facing the Duke's advice. Next time, don't act on your own. She nodded vigorously. The Duke smiled until his eyes narrowed. Looks like I should ask for your thoughts when investigating cases from now on. The butler also praised the young lady. You're very clever, and your intuition is good. But looking at the flower bud the Duke held, he curiously asked what flower it was. Every time you see this flower, your expression becomes strange. The knowing butler looked at him worriedly, silently lowering his head. Should I not have asked? But the Duke revealed his long-buried feelings. This was left by a villain. That person was absolutely unforgivable. Lei curiously asked just how bad that person was. The Duke shook his head helplessly. Actually, I don't know either, because I have no idea who he is. Then the Duke briefly explained the previous murder cases, and the clues to those cases were the scattered red flowers. Even the Duke knew nothing about the criminal's true identity. Lei shuddered. She had also received such flowers before. She speculated further. The reason the Duke adopted her wasn't because of good luck, but because she brought these flowers? But she truly knew nothing about the flowers' origin. Had the Duke suspected her of being the killer too? Holding back her hurt feelings and confusion, she only thought about how much she liked him. It seemed she would have to leave now. Lei looked up, firmly memorizing the Duke's face in her mind. The Duke understood her look. Stroking her head, he comforted. You really are clever. At first, I did suspect you. I also hoped you knew certain secrets, because whenever I was in trouble, you would help me. Lei asked softly, do you still suspect me now? The Duke shook his head. No, because you saved my life. Even if there's doubt, father-daughter relationships in this world are all different, aren't they? The Duke had spent his life cautiously walking in the gray area, using unconventional methods to deal with unforgivable murderers. This secret was originally known only to his son and butler, but now he had completely dropped his guard against Young Min, telling her everything honestly. He smiled at Young Min. Now that you know my secret, you can't escape anymore. Become my daughter. But Lei misunderstood. She stood up and vowed, Your Grace, I will keep your secret. Even if I die, I won't tell anyone. Seeing Lei so serious, the Duke chuckled. By the way, I have something very important to ask. Lei looked serious and nervous, as if she had joined the cause of fighting bad people. Am I going to punish evil and promote good too? The Duke looked down at Yang. Why do you still call me, Your Grace? Shouldn't we change this form of address? Say it yourself. What am I to you? Lei's palms were sweaty as she tentatively asked. Father? The Duke looked at Lei expectantly. No, not that. Lei was so anxious her forehead sweated. Father?" The Duke still shook his head with a smile. His gentle voice carried a hint of reproach. "What's wrong? You didn't call me that before." Lei felt a bit embarrassed, lowering her head. After the Duke said, "Papa," she looked at him expectantly again. The Duke was very satisfied this time, smiling broadly. "That's right. From now on, you'll call me Papa." Lei was so embarrassed she was steaming, covering her face completely. The Duke abruptly changed the subject. "Where's Jed?" The butler standing nearby replied. "Young master stayed by your side all night, without sleep. I asked him to rest in the next room." The Duke turned to look at Young Yu, and couldn't help but laugh again. He teased. "Looks like everyone in the Duke's mansion revolves around you. Shiwen, please call Jed here." Then he picked up the tiny Yang in his arms. "Come, let's go home." Sitting in Papa's steady arms, Lei smiled sweetly. She nodded firmly. Let's go home." The carriage waiting outside the hospital was decorated with Lei's favorite balloons. Holding her golden face, flushed with excitement, Lei asked, "Jed, are all these balloons for me?" After receiving her brother's confirmation, Lei smiled especially happily. The old father sitting nearby became displeased. She wasn't nearly this happy when calling him Papa earlier. Brother had given his sister his favorite balloons, though not expensive. The gift made his sister particularly happy. The old man sat aside, feeling discontent. He also wanted to receive his daughter's smile. "If you'd like, we can go to the toy store now." But Lei felt insecure, wondering if it was because he was sick that the Duke was compromising. He probably doesn't like buying toys for children. The Duke rested his face on his hand, his handsome features showing a slight smile. "Last time you stood in front of the toy store, looking at the window display with such longing. That expression was very cute. Which time was that?" As the person involved, Lei thought hard for a while. She hadn't expected the Duke to remember. He was referring to when she ran out looking for balloons. When Lei was wandering the streets before, she especially envied those children who went to toy stores with their parents. After being adopted, she had thought that maybe someday when the Duke was in a good mood and not busy with work, she might also be able to, while Lei was lost in her fantasy. The Duke mistook her silence for rejection. "Well, we can go another time. I didn't know what you liked, so I just bought the entire store." Lei was so startled she let go of her balloon. She looked at the Duke in disbelief. "Why would you do that?" "Shiwen, is what he's saying true?" The butler explained apologetically. "Miss, I tried to stop him, but the master wouldn't listen." It was the Duke's first time being so impulsive. Embarrassed, he turned his head away and tried to stop the butler. "Stop talking." Lei shook her head stubbornly. "No, butler, please, continue." The butler cleared his throat helplessly. "The day before yesterday, the master said that when you woke up, he wanted to give you a gift, so he went to the toy store but didn't know what to choose. After struggling for a long time, before the butler could finish, Lei shouted, "So he just bought the whole toy store." The Duke now looked like someone who had done something wrong, not daring to look at Lei. His forehead was sweating as he stubbornly defended. "No, I only paid a deposit." The butler unhelpfully added, "Yes, a deposit large enough to buy the entire store." The Duke continued protesting. "Didn't I say? I don't know what little girls like. I've never bought toys for anyone before." Lei caught this detail in his words. "Wait, you've never bought gifts for Jed?" The Duke looked a bit guilty. "At Maria Anna's request, I once bought Jed a gift. It was a teddy bear. Or was it a soldier doll?" Jed's voice came in without emotion. "It was a teddy bear wearing a soldier's uniform." Young Jed was just like a miniature version of the Duke. The Duke remembered. After receiving the gift, Jed wasn't very happy and said coldly, "Please don't treat me like an ordinary child. Such trivial matters aren't worth your attention. Let's just maintain our usual father-son relationship." His son was mature like an adult even as a child. Never called him Papa, only father. He refused to get too close to his father and agreed that even on birthdays, there should be no sentimental gifts. Besides, all these gifts were chosen by the butler anyway. The Duke looked embarrassed. The butler was quite surprised. "Young master, you could tell?" Jed was indifferent. "Because all the gifts I received each year were very practical, like parts books and rare specimens. And father really doesn't know how to choose." His son was cute when young, but was cold and wouldn't let anyone in. Fortunately, the Duke now has a daughter, but he insisted he loved his son. "Didn't I let you into my specimen room and buy you the poisonous snake you wanted?" Jed shrugged. "But that snake was already dead." The Duke mumbled quietly, trying to salvage his image in Lei's eyes. "We have bear specimens I brought back from hunting at home. What's the use of a teddy bear?" Lei thought no wonder her brother couldn't express emotions. It all traced back to the Duke. The Duke probably never received gifts from his parents either. After all, he didn't know how to be endearing. So Lei tugged at the Duke's sleeve. I heard Bear King can ward off nightmare ghosts. The Duke looked dismissive. That's just superstition. Lei puffed up her cheeks, put her hands on her hips, raised her chin proudly. Since you don't have Bear King, if you're scared at night, you can come to my room and hold my hand while sleeping. After all, you don't have a teddy bear. Everyone in the carriage fell silent, leaving Lei confused. What's wrong with everyone? We're just struck by how cute you are. The Duke patted Lei's head firmly. Through gritted teeth, he said, "What should I do? I really want to bite you." Lei's hair stood on end in fright. What does that mean? Her brother reminded from the side. Father, though I understand your feelings, you should be more subtle. The butler, for the first time, eagerly volunteered to help Lei. Miss, since you can't go out until you're fully recovered, is there anything you want? If so, I can get it from the toy store for you. But Lei still scolded the Duke for wasting money. She looked up and asked the Duke, "Can't you return the toy store you bought? I don't need a toy store. I'd be happy just to have a teddy bear that you picked out for me." Duke, hearing the last sentence, the Duke's previously indifferent expression changed to wide-eyed surprise. He wanted to hear it again. Say that again for me. From the teddy bear part. Hearing what he wanted to hear, the Duke was very happy. He planted a kiss on Lei's forehead. What a shame. You called me Duke again, but I'll still buy you the best teddy bear. Covering the kissed spot, Lei giggled, then added, "Oh right, you should still return that store." But all three people in the carriage pretended not to hear. She was deeply loved by her family. To repay this love, she acted cute and spoiled in front of them. Let them arrange everything for her, letting them enjoy taking care of a child. But when she was alone, she wasn't so childlike. Without the maid's help, she got out of bed by herself. However, after just 1 second, she was left gasping for breath, kneeling on the ground. No good. My body feels so heavy. I should really listen to the butler. When sick, I need bed rest. Moonlight poured into the room. She was drawn to the moon outside. Today was when the mind's moon appeared, when the moon would be at its fullest and largest. The moon's serenity reminded her of many things. Her adoption was initially just because she could help the Duke find clues about the Red Flower Killer. Although she had read this novel and knew the Duke would cleverly solve the case, now she had forgotten the killer's description, and the previously caught fortune teller who used rare, odorless poison to kill women. But how could a fortune teller from a poor village have such expensive poison? This fortune teller had no connection to the Red Flower Killer. She remembered recently when the Duke asked her to call him Papa. Of course, she had thought before how nice it would be to have a father. After all, being alone was too lonely. Actually, she didn't dare to hope for too much. That one day she would have a family of her own. Because when good things happened, she worried more about paying the price. She couldn't help but feel anxious. If she still couldn't get used to calling the Duke Papa in the future, what should she do? What if he grew tired of her? What if everyone thought she was useless and told her to get out of the Duke's mansion? She made a wish under the moon. Moon, I don't dare ask for much. Just let me stay in this family. Under the red moon, the Duke's family wanted to catch the Red Flower Killer, standing on the balcony watching the moon. But his face couldn't be seen clearly. He had once given Lei a red flower, originally wanting to see what kind of existence she would become in the Duke's family. Unexpectedly, everyone in the Duke's mansion treasured her dearly. He began to secretly anticipate when he would meet Lei face to face. What would her reaction be? The Red Flower Killer touched his lips with his finger. On the back of his raised right hand was a red flower tattoo. Once a beggar who could only look at toys through shop windows, begging for the shopkeeper's mercy. Now after waking up from a good sleep, she received a teddy bear from her father. She excitedly jumped up from bed, happily lifting the teddy bear high, then rubbing it against her head. How cute. It's so soft too. So this is how a teddy bear feels. And this bear is special. Its eyes are different colors. Suddenly, a card fell from behind the bear's bottom. Lei guessed it must be from the Duke. She smiled sweetly, put on her slippers, and pattered over to the butler. Shiwen, look at this. She pushed the teddy bear in front of the butler. The butler nagged to the maid about the young miss. Don't run so fast. Be careful not to reopen your wound. Seeing how much the young miss liked the bear, he smiled contentedly. This is the master's gift to you. It took quite some time to make this doll. Lei took out the card from earlier. Shiwen, can you read it to me? The butler looked confused at first when opening it. Then his expression became gentle. So this is the real gift. Then he knelt down beside Lei and returned the card to her. Why don't you let the Duke read it to you himself? He would be very happy too. Lei was curious. What was written inside? The butler had to give a preview. It's the new name the master chose for you. For a moment, Lei felt a bit down. She still preferred the name her mother gave her. Besides, noble names were always so long. Could she remember it? Just then, the freshly awakened Duke appeared, leaning against the wall behind the two. He lazily asked, "What's wrong, Shiwen? You should read it." The butler seemed uncertain. The Duke chuckled softly. "Go ahead and read it." The butler sighed. Master is always so willful. Opening the envelope, he read seriously, "Hello, Princess. I am your teddy bear. Please give me a name." The Duke, patting Lei's shoulder, teased the always formal butler. "Shiwen, you need to read with feeling." The butler sighed deeply, continuing to read. "From now on, I am Princess's teddy bear friend. I have prepared a gift for Princess. It is your new name. Beautiful and lovely Princess. Your new name is Letitia. It means the sky where thousands of moons rise. I will protect you when you have nightmares. My two eyes are jewels that capture moonlight for you. You must take good care of them." Hugging the bear tightly, Lei was moved. So the Duke had kept Lei in her name. She thought, he probably hopes I won't forget any moment spent with my mother. I'm just an ordinary girl born on a Monday. Yet he gave me such a beautiful name. After reading, the butler smiled at Lei. The Duke cheerfully praised him. "Well read, Shiwen," making the butler feel a bit embarrassed. "Please stop teasing me. Did you write this card yourself?" The Duke, acting childlike, playfully answered, "That's a secret." Then he crouched down. "Letitia, do you like this name?" Lei nodded vigorously. "I like it. It sounds so beautiful." The Duke was satisfied too. "I've been thinking hard about what name would suit you, because our first meeting was like a dream. Seeing you so happy makes me happy too." The Duke rarely expressed his feelings. He had nothing much to say to his own son, but when it came to the little lamb girl, loving words flowed naturally from his mouth. "Since you don't know your birth date, and you've just escaped death today, let's make today your birthday. Happy birthday, my daughter." Lei blushed shyly, then rushed forward and hugged the Duke. So this was how it felt to be needed. The Duke widened his eyes in disbelief. Every time the little lamb girl hugged him, he would freeze up nervously, not knowing where to put his hands and feet. Hearing Lei say she wanted to show the teddy bear to her brother, he didn't make his usual witty remarks. Instead, he just dumbly replied, The butler watched the Duke's behavior and smiled silently. Lei pattered towards her brother's bedroom, pushing open the bedroom door. The newly awakened Jade was still a bit dazed, rubbing his eyes. He watched his sister climb onto his bed, excitedly shouting, "Jade, I have a new name," holding up the teddy bear and card. She smiled so widely her eyes disappeared. "It's Letitia. Papa gave it to me, and he made today my birthday." Jade's smile held a hint of loneliness and regret. "Father didn't tell me beforehand. Otherwise, I would have been the first to give you a birthday present, for sure." The jewel eyes on this teddy bear are beautiful. "What are jewels?" Lei couldn't believe it. Her brother took the teddy bear and carefully explained. "The red one is ruby. The blue one is sapphire." Lei froze in shock. Then her face turned pale. Hugging the teddy bear, she hurried to find her father. "Your Grace, I have something to say." She glared at her spendthrift father, her determination unwavering. A teddy bear alone would have been enough. There was no need to set such expensive jewels. "If this continues, I'm afraid I'll become a wasteful girl." The Duke remained calm. "It's fine. You can spend as you like. No need to follow etiquette. Better if you reach an unacceptable level." Lei was stunned. "But then, people will hate me." The Duke didn't see anything wrong. "That's actually not bad. You can grow freely. Be a tyrannical young lady in the Duke's mansion. Just always be my daughter." The Duke grew increasingly happy. He couldn't help but smile. But Lei's thinking was clear. "If I don't accept the jewels, does that mean I can't be your daughter?" The Duke was stunned, not knowing how to answer his daughter's question. Finally, he could only say, "Keep them for now. I won't buy you expensive toys anymore." Jade laughed too. Father was a stubborn person, but he really listened to his sister. One's bane is another's match. The daughter complained about her father's wasteful spending, asking why he bought a teddy bear with expensive jewels. But father seemed unconcerned. "I want you to spend freely. No need to follow etiquette. It's best if you become a domineering, spoiled young lady." Then the Duke waved his hand. A pure white strawberry cake was brought in. This was Lei's first birthday cake in her life, something she never dared to dream of during her days wandering the streets. Then everyone in the Duke's mansion came up, offering their blessings together. Lei could hardly believe it, blinking several times, making sure it wasn't an illusion. Father, brother, and the butler, these three important people to her, also gave their heartfelt birthday wishes. She finally realized it was real, and smiled sweetly with her mouth wide open. The scene from her dreams had actually come true. She firmly etched this day in her heart, because she had a new name. From this day on, she was Letitia, the Duke's little daughter. But Lay didn't know that she had actually met the Duke years ago, when she was wandering the streets, though neither had left an impression on the other then. That winter, several little beggars huddled in front of an expensive antique toy shop, admiring the unreachable toys. The Duke was inside the toy shop, looking at a toy in his hand with concern. Would Jade be happy receiving this gift? The butler was as gentle and considerate as always. What matters is that you chose the gift yourself. Besides, young master doesn't lack anything, so whatever you give will be fine. Then the two walked out of the warm shop and encountered the little beggars hurriedly fleeing. The Duke curiously asked who those children were. The butler told him they were children living in the back alley. They probably ran because they saw the shop owner coming to chase them away. The Duke was skeptical. Are you sure it's not because they were scared of seeing me? The butler sighed helplessly. Though you look frightening. Most shop owners suspect these children of stealing when they see them, so they naturally chase them away with sticks. Actually, these children peeking around look quite adorable. The Duke accidentally noticed among the children that little one with green eyes, whose gaze was filled with touching longing. The Duke fell silent for a moment. His profit-driven nature was defeated by the little girl's cuteness. He took out a gold coin from his pocket and gave it to the butler, telling him to ask the shop owner to keep the lights on tonight. Under the butler's puzzled gaze, the Duke explained that even if Jade received the gift, he would just throw it away. Better to let other children enjoy this kindness. So that night, Lay stayed alone in the snowy night, lying in front of the shop, quietly admiring the delicate dolls. She thought the shop owner had forgotten to turn off the lights, not knowing someone had intentionally left them on for her, making her feel warm even in the snowy weather. Although brother, father, and butler, these three men all spoiled her, she still liked Auntie the most. Auntie knew best what girls liked, always buying her all kinds of pretty clothes. The closet couldn't even fit them all, yet Auntie still praised her beauty and cuteness, her eyes sparkling with hearts. Oh my, Letitia, how can you be so pretty? Your round cheeks are so different from when you first came to this family. Thin as a sick cat, holding the teddy bear from father, Lay shyly lowered her head. Then she sat in Auntie's lap, enjoying having her hair brushed. The gentle technique made her lift her little head like a kitten. Auntie asked her little niece, "Is this your first time boating?" Lay nodded. "Yes, I've never traveled far before." Auntie was charmed by her cuteness. "Then you must be very excited. What an adorable child." Auntie then asked, "How's your health recovering?" Lay replied energetically, "I'm feeling very well now." But Auntie was still a bit worried. "If you feel unwell, come back right away." "Okay." Enjoying Auntie's concern, Lay smiled sweetly. She nodded and agreed. Looking at her braided pigtails in the mirror, Lay politely thanked Auntie. Auntie was both happy and a bit sad. "You'll soon grow into a beautiful lady. I love how you are now. Yet I want to see how you'll look when you grow up. But I also hope you won't grow up too fast. This must be what raising a daughter feels like." Lay was very understanding. She knew Auntie was single, unable to marry, so she sometimes looked melancholic. So she smiled sweetly and said loudly, "I want to grow up quickly and become someone like you." Auntie was puzzled. "Like me? What kind of person do you mean?" Lay turned around. "Someone beautiful and kind like you, and especially radiant. Perhaps because we subconsciously believe children don't lie. Their compliments make us even happier." Auntie hugged her little niece and nuzzled her face. "Oh, you're so sweet. You're like a little angel. Though don't learn my poor drinking habits." Just then, brother knocked on the door. As he walked in, Auntie, in high spirits, joked, "Everyone should enjoy drinking. Jade, you should learn to drink from me." Jade was used to Auntie's rebellious nature and replied matter-of-factly, "I can already drink quite well. Next time you're unhappy, come drink with me." "Why wait until next time?" Lay invited. "Aunt Maria, won't you come boating with us?" Auntie kissed her thoughtful niece. "No, the temple has activities this afternoon. Have fun." Finally, Auntie watched the two little ones leave. Lay's smile was brighter than sunshine. But at this moment, she had no idea that this anticipated picnic would turn out so strange. While father attended an important meeting, brother took his sister out for a picnic. While boating, Sister smiled happily. Thank you for taking me out, brother. Though Jade showed no expression, he was quite pleased inside. Great, finally I can have sister all to myself. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind. Jade, are you also going to tear Slave Island? Sister looked back to see 3 boys enthusiastically greeting brother, but brother was visibly displeased and grumbled. I thought I could spend time alone with sister. Why did these 3 annoying flies show up? He made no response, pretending not to see them, and casually introduced them to sister. They're my seniors, but we're not close, just acquaintances. Then he waved to the boatman, signaling him to row away quickly. With a whoosh, they got farther from the other boat. Sister suddenly found it strange. Brother never mentioned school. He was always at home playing with her. Shouldn't students go to school every day? Brother nodded. My sister is so smart. Knowing students should go to school. Generally, I should go to school every day. Attendance points are important after all. But there was a hint of showing off in brother's tone. But actually, as long as I get perfect scores in every subject, it makes up for the lost attendance points. The tearful teachers can't do anything about students like this who skip class. Moreover, Jade's excuse for skipping class was quite reasonable. He claimed he was training at the magic tower. Lay's mouth gaped open in disbelief. Brother's lying, but you've been playing at home recently. Lying is wrong. Brother smiled. I've been playing with you lately. So you're an accomplice too. Unexpectedly dragged into this, the Duke's mansion's only good citizen panicked, but her little mind wandered back to the topic of school, imagining herself wearing a school uniform. Oh, I really want to go to school and make friends, but Noble Academy tuition must be very expensive. I shouldn't be too greedy. Being able to stay at the Duke's house is already a blessing from heaven. She smiled, seeing that brother had made a harmless little joke. Jade, you always teach me to be clever. What if I become bad? Brother suddenly turned serious. He stared at his sister's face. He earnestly advised, I don't want you to be a justice warrior. I want you to be as selfish as possible. Think more about yourself. Besides, clever bad people and kind honest good people are equally rare. As the conversation grew more profound about what kind of person to become, Lay hadn't thought that deeply about it. Just learning to read was giving her enough headaches. Brother didn't care about his own studies but was extremely concerned about his sister's lessons. The more words you know, the smarter you'll become. I heard you can write several words now. For a former little beggar, being able to read was a blessing. I can write my own name now, though I sometimes make mistakes. What else? Under brother's expectant gaze, she gestured in the air. The word is correct. I also learned how to write. The Duke and your teacher told us that close noble relatives write letters to each other, so I want to write letters to you too. Lay smiled brightly, her eyes curving, her radiant smile affecting Jade. The usually cold youth let out a light laugh. Goodness, you're so interesting. Lay puffed her cheeks in anger, thinking brother was mocking her. Even though I don't know many characters, I know enough to write letters. Jade laughed even louder. Little beggars were loyal and righteous, sharing begged food with each other, taking care of each other when sick. But they had a strange street rule. Don't share hardships. Don't share good fortune. If someone died from illness, or was beaten while begging, or was taken to an orphanage, or if lucky, went to a better place, they shouldn't look for each other. They should live as strangers. Adopted by the Duke's mansion, she was already carefully trying not to cause trouble, but the better her life became, the more she thought about her still wandering companions. Brother saw all the conflict on her face. Lay awkwardly changed the subject. Actually, I'm very lucky. Otherwise, I would suffer again in winter. Just thinking about frozen feet in patched blankets scares me, so I'm really grateful to the Duke and you. Brother was confused. Didn't you say before that the street you lived on was warm? Lay broke into an embarrassed sweat. That was a lie she had told earlier to make herself seem less pitiful. She avoided brother's eyes, pretending to admire the scenery. But I'm healthy, except for harsh winters. I felt quite warm other times. To make sure his sister wasn't lying, brother stared intently at her face. Then he told her, taking care of you is natural. You don't need to thank me. The pressure from brother suddenly lifted. She sighed in relief. But hearing brother say it was natural, she strongly disagreed. That's not true. The more natural something is, the more grateful we should be. Sister was so wise. Brother smiled contentedly. Is that so? Then I should often thank you too. Thank you for coming to our family. Thank you for recovering so quickly. That's why we can go boating together. How heartwarming. Lay's little face turned rosy. She wanted to do something to show brother her current feelings, so she lunged forward and hugged brother's neck. She laughed loudly, saying, I'm the one who should say thank you. It's so wonderful that you're my brother. Jade was also happy to receive such affection from his sister, but his personality couldn't express more sentimental words, so he could only say, "Stop fooling around. It's dangerous." Lei smiled shyly but didn't let go of her arms around her brother. She thought if these feelings could be like postcards, forever treasured deep in her heart, how wonderful that would be. Even if difficult days come again in the future, these happy memories would be enough to help her live on strongly. The daughter is so understanding. After watching this episode, you all better cry in the comments. Meeting 3 senior students, he wasn't friendly at all. His attitude was exceptionally cold, and he had the boat driven very fast, afraid they would see his sister. But the 3 seniors still appeared before him. He was very unhappy and greeted them coldly, using his tall body to block the 3 seniors' view. But his sister wasn't interested in them either, because in her previous alley, she had seen too many nobles with bad reputations, so now whenever she saw young noble men, she would feel scared. Lei peeked once, since brother had introduced himself. Should she go out and greet them to be polite? But as soon as she moved a small step, brother blocked her completely. He said to the 3 seniors coldly, "Very happy to see you all today. Let's enjoy ourselves separately. Don't disturb each other." But the red-haired senior was particularly persistent, simply not understanding human words. Jade sighed and had to push his sister forward to introduce her. Lei, standing among the sunflowers, looked as cute as a paper Barbie doll, instantly touching the hearts of the 3 seniors. They turned around and discussed quietly, "Wow, she's so cute. The Duke's family has such an adorable child." Lei blushed and looked down at her teddy bear. Such praise would make her float. The green-eyed senior turned first and smiled in greeting. "Hello, I'm Lien." His face seemed familiar to Lei. Strange. She felt she had seen him somewhere before. Then the red-haired senior bowed. "I'm Percy. Jade is my junior." Lei very politely bowed back. Percy then turned around, covering his mouth to suppress his excitement. Just looking at the back of his head, you could tell he was very happy. Jade unhappily clenched his fists. Lei looked completely confused. What was he so happy about? Finally, it was Senior Boris. He grabbed Lei's hand wanting to kiss it. In greeting and flirtatiously said, "When I first saw you, I thought I saw a flower fairy." Senior Boris closed his eyes in rapture, about to kiss her hand, but Jade expressionlessly lifted his sister, making Boris kiss his hand instead. Jade looked like he wanted to eat someone. His expression was dark and terrifying, but he still politely said, "Sorry, my sister is shy." The completely confused sister swayed in the air. Boris was scared cold with sweat. Percy quickly smoothed things over. He didn't mean to offend. He just thought your sister was too cute. But Jade wasn't planning to let it go. Instead coldly smiled and said, "However, if you use cuteness as an excuse to touch her, I won't let it slide." The seniors thought he was joking. Only Lei, who knew her brother best, realized brother seemed to be serious. With his sister, Jade was obviously much happier. Watching Lei eat, he felt he could never get tired of it, but he waved his hand in disgust. "Like gray flies. You 3 seniors, finish your tea and leave quickly." Percy deliberately whined, trying to gain sympathy. "We rarely meet like this. You're being too cold." Jade mercilessly exposed them. "You're clearly skipping class to come here for adventure." Percy's face changed instantly. "How are you so smart? You guessed it right away." The 2 seniors sitting aside immediately distanced themselves. "We tried to warn him. The Blue Rose's curse is terrifying." They once found 2 corpses in the Blue Rose garden. During their conversation, Lei continued chewing food with her cute cheeks. Strange. Why did Lien seem so familiar? As a noble young lady, she shouldn't know him. The seniors were telling her brother's embarrassing stories in front of his sister. During student council meetings, he would doze off. At the ball, Jade, brother darkly told them to shut up, afraid of ruining his perfect image in his sister's eyes. But seeing his sister laugh until tears came out, he smiled too and stopped objecting, as long as his sister was happy. But then the reckless senior suddenly suggested, "Why don't you bring your sister when school starts next semester?" Jade immediately refused strongly. "No, annoying flies will follow." Lei saw this side of her brother, laughing and talking with classmates. She couldn't stop laughing. The seniors then set their sights on her. "Little sister, when you first enter society, you must come to our family's ball." Boris interrupted, "No, your family's balls have no class. For her first ball, she should definitely come to our house." Jade seriously refused. She's still young. It's too early to discuss entering society. Which ball she'll attend, father and I will decide. Hugging her doll, his sister felt a bit lost. If Jade says so, Does that mean I can't go anywhere? Brother didn't mean that. Overprotection isn't right either. He just wanted to give his sister the safest environment. Many nobles appear bright and beautiful on the outside, but are actually dark and corrupt inside. Lei understood her brother's concern. More importantly, she could go out to play. She smiled happily. The seniors beside were moved to tears, clutching their pounding hearts. God, how can there be such a cute and obedient sister? Hearing the praise, Lei's face turned red. Jade looked impatient. Please don't casually praise other people's sister, he thought. Don't speak sweet words to my sister. This strong possessiveness surprised the two seniors greatly. They thought Jade was always indifferent. Turns out, this is how he treats people he cares about. Has Jade been bewitched by the blue roses? What nonsense. Jade interrupted. Senior, don't talk nonsense. Hearing the cold response, the senior suddenly felt nostalgic. Yes, that's definitely him. While everyone was laughing happily, Lien suddenly stood up. I want to see the blue roses. My sister used to love these flowers. I want to pick some for her. The expressions on Percy and Boris's faces suddenly turned unpleasant. They seemed afraid to speak. Even their smiles were forced. Seeing their worried looks, Boris explained, Lien's sister passed away last year. He wants to pick flowers to visit her. Previously, he had no reaction to others' deaths and wouldn't sympathize with others' tragic fates. The world seemed more like a game to him. But now that he has a sister, he's getting closer to other boys who also have sisters, wanting to learn how to be a brother. He had a classmate named Lien, who had a famously beautiful sister named Elise. She was engaged at a very young age, but last year, Elise died of pneumonia. Hearing this cause of death, she frowned. In noble circles, when an underage girl commits suicide, they usually say she died of pneumonia. Not understanding the implications, sister choked up in sympathy, looking sadly at Lien. He was holding many blue roses, Elise's favorite when she was alive. Seeing the mood getting more somber, Lien took the initiative to change the subject. Let's talk about something interesting. Miss, what are you curious about regarding life in the capital? Hearing that Lei hadn't explored much, Lien closed his eyes, recalling when he first came to the capital from the countryside. The excitement of stepping on sunset-tinted tiles at the train station, the bells ringing in the blue clock tower, and flocks of white doves in the sky. It's my honor to spend my youth in the capital. After hearing Lien's quiet description, Lei became more curious about the city. After tea, the three seniors left on their own. Lei and her brother lay on the painting-like lawn, with the teddy bear from father beside them. Brother thoughtfully asked his sister how she felt. Was it fun? Very fun? Hee. I'm so happy. I want to come again. Seeing his sister's big smile, he felt relieved and happy too. It seems bringing sister out was the right choice. Seeing his sister yawning tiredly, brother asked, do you want to sleep for a while? Lei nodded but worried. You must wake me up later. Don't leave me alone and go away. Because now, she was still afraid that one small mistake would break all this happiness. Brother noticed her anxiety. He used his straw hat to block the bright sunlight from her face, and answered, of course, I'll wake you up. After a while, Lei was awakened by laughter. She rubbed her eyes and sat up, discovering many girls had appeared nearby. It turned out the Duke had arrived. Lei excitedly stood up and ran to the Duke's side. The man lifted her high. Letitia, are you having fun? She smiled sweetly. Of course. Why did you come? The Duke looked at her tenderly. Of course I came to see you. Weren't you unhappy this morning? Lei didn't believe this explanation, looking suspiciously at the Duke. That's just your excuse, right? You actually came to go boating with those sisters. Lei's jealous words made them laugh. This child is too cute. Must pinch those cheeks. I never make excuses. The only person who could make me rush here is you. How terrifying a doting father's jealousy could be. The three men trembled in fear, faces pale, unconsciously kneeling before the Duke. The Duke held his daughter with one arm, turned to ask his son, Jade, who are these flies? How dare they chat with my daughter without female attendants present? His smile didn't convey any warmth, instead feeling exceptionally cold. The Duke glanced lightly at the picnic spot. They even drank in front of her. Your Grace, that's a double standard. Didn't you drink in front of your daughter too? The three men stood up and solemnly swore. We swear we never did anything to trouble the young lady. The Duke didn't respond, commanding from above, introduce yourselves. The three were so frightened they couldn't speak clearly. Stammering, they had to turn around to rehearse. Jade helplessly touched his forehead at these useless seniors. He had to explain to his father, we happened to meet them here today. The Duke showed a kind smile. So, are they pests or not? Jade showed an identical smile, at least not to the point of needing elimination. Lei was helpless. How could they say such terrible things with such gentle voices? The three men nearby heard this and trembled like sieves. This time the Duke was genuinely friendly. I'm just joking. It's because my daughter is too cute that I act this way. Don't worry. The three sighed in relief, but couldn't fully relax, because the Duke was staring at them intently, as if one disrespectful move would lead to their immediate elimination. Jade suddenly asked his father, "Why did you come so early? The state council meeting should have lasted longer. Could it be you're jealous of our sibling bonding time?" The Duke sat beside his daughter, pushing his son aside, casually complaining, "His Majesty seems to have gotten lazy lately, so he ended the meeting early." His son muttered quietly, "Was that really His Majesty's intention?" The Duke pretended not to hear, continuing to force a friendly smile. "Nice to meet you all. What were you talking about?" Lei naturally sat on the Duke's lap, looking at these people, both scared and happy while conversing with the Duke. Only one person named Percy looked melancholic. He stood up. "I want to get some fresh air and sober up." The other two looked admiringly at the Duke. "Could you tell us about your time in the student council?" The Duke looked down tenderly at his daughter. "Letitia, do you want to know too?" The little lady nodded. "I'm curious about everything about you." So this father began telling his daughter about his heroic past. The father and son had seen too much darkness, so they protected the girl with all their might. But this day, as the family of three was happily enjoying the picturesque scenery, suddenly both father and son's expressions turned alert. The girl suddenly sensed something wrong, following her father and brother's gaze, but the next second, her brother pulled her into his embrace, but she still saw it. The person who was just laughing with them now lay quietly among the blue roses, right hand holding a dagger, left wrist bleeding profusely, already staining a small patch of flowers red. Her brother guessed it was likely suicide, because his beloved fiancé had died a year ago. But sister felt something was off. She sneaked a glance at the distant corpse, and found father was smiling. She couldn't understand. Then father instructed, "Go over there, count to 3, walk 10 steps, then scream loudly. After others come, don't come back. Let us examine the body." She obediently nodded, even though brother was only 14. Why couldn't she join father to be a little detective? She followed the instructions. The deceased's two close friends couldn't believe it. Someone who was fine just now was suddenly gone. It must be suicide, right? The three of us were together. There's no one else on this island except for the dark energy bed over there. One of them was so upset he cried. It's my fault for mentioning his fiancé. Did my words trigger him? But Lei found many suspicious points. Someone planning to commit suicide wouldn't be so happy beforehand. Still joking with us. Seeing her silence, father quickly walked over to ask her, "Are you scared?" Lei solemnly shook her head. "No. I just want to help Dad find the culprit." But her knowledge from the novel had already ended. Now she knew nothing. She lowered her head in disappointment. One of the deceased's friends looked up at the Duke's family. "No offense, but your family members discovered the body." The Duke smiled coldly. "Although there are many unfavorable rumors about our family outside, you don't need to suspect that we conspired to kill him and then called you here. Based on the blood volume and coagulation rate, we can deduce that the victim's death occurred at least 30 minutes ago." The Duke looked at one of the deceased's friends again. "When you signaled the servants, your friend was already dead. However, from the scene, this does appear to be suicide, so everyone can claim innocence. I'm neither a doctor nor police. When they arrive, they'll make their own judgment." Looking at the corpse and the grieving too, Lei was certain in her heart. She felt something was missing. Something felt off. She didn't think this was suicide. She gripped her father's hand, but the Duke misunderstood. "Are you upset?" He crouched down, removing his black glove, using his warm palm to touch his daughter's forehead. Dad and brother thought she was timid, scared by seeing the corpse. Little did they know that at age 7, she was actually thinking about who the real murderer was. Dad and brother didn't intend to hide it from her. Though they publicly claimed suicide, they privately discussed that this should be murder. There were many suspicious points. The killer must be hiding on the island. But this island only had one dock for boats. This season was quiet. If anyone else had come by boat, they would have noticed. Brother joked to lighten the mood. Maybe the culprit is a mermaid. But Lei remained serious, concentrating on who the culprit might be. Could the culprit be among us? She turned her head, suddenly remembering that the culprit had already slipped up earlier. The deceased's blonde friend was giving his statement to the officer. He was skilled with swords, so he could precisely cut his own blood vessel. But Lei's gaze fell on the other friend who hadn't spoken. She tugged at the Duke's clothes, deliberately saying, Lian is so pitiful. Can we take Lian with us? I want to comfort him on the way. His sister died, and now his sister's fiancé is dead too. He must be so heartbroken. The three were bewildered, hearing Lei's nonsense. The Duke didn't question further, but held Lei in his arms, patting her head. You're so kind. Brother didn't doubt either, pushing Lian along. Since my sister asked, we have no choice. Senior Lian, let's go. Lian tried to refuse, but Lei gripped his arm tightly. No, your face is very pale. You look like you might faint any second. The Duke also smiled, pushing Lian into the carriage. Get in quickly. This is our family's educational principle. When children whine and plead, since my daughter is so charming, giving you a ride isn't trouble. Lian couldn't refuse and could only sit in the carriage with his head down. The Duke smiled meaningfully, as if knowing his daughter had discovered something interesting, looking forward to it so much that Lei had to forcefully turn to look out the window. Actually, the real killer was the deceased's friend and future brother-in-law, Lian, but this time, Lei wanted the Duke to hear Lian's reason for murder, because in the novel, although the Duke was the embodiment of justice, he wasn't happy. Lei looked out the window, confirming they should be arriving soon. This was the place. She hurriedly grabbed the Duke's clothes, making up an excuse to stop. The teddy bear's ribbon fell out the window. The Duke looked puzzled. Did it have a ribbon around its neck before? Lei lied without hesitation. Yes, this morning. The carriage obeyed the Duke's order and stopped. He handed a silver coin to the servant, asking them to find the ribbon. Lian nervously lowered his head in the carriage. Then I'll get off here too. Lei tested him again. Here? This area is quite desolate. It's not safe. But hearing his poor excuse, she became impatient, grabbing his hand. Lian, before you go, I have a question. Have you seen me before? Her father and brother with 180 IQs couldn't find the killer immediately. But she, who usually just acted cute, noticed something wrong. She questioned the killer. What color is the clock tower at the train station? The killer confidently answered it was silver. Lei shook her head firmly. You said it was gold before. The killer awkwardly scratched his head. Maybe I was drunk. Just a slip of the tongue. Lei became more certain he was the killer. She told him that wasn't right, because blue was also a correct answer. The train station clock tower used special paint, gold during the day, and blue at night. Street children often used that clock tower as a meeting point. Meeting at the blue clock tower meant meeting there at night. Lei remembered when she was still homeless. Her friends insisted on watching trains during the day and dragged her to the station. That's how she discovered this clever color change. Moreover, all trains stopped running before 6 p.m., and no one was allowed in the station at night. Therefore, usually no one would be there at night. That's why it became a meeting place for local village children, most of whom were thieves. That's why Lei found the killer familiar. She had seen him during those nighttime gatherings at the clock tower. But Lian was clearly a noble lady, who couldn't have been homeless. Lei became confused. There couldn't be two Lians, could there? Her father listened to her analysis with a proud expression. The killer stammered, unable to speak. Just then, the carriage door burst open. Someone grabbed Lei and held a dagger to her throat. Don't move. Release Lian. Lei nervously broke into a sweat but internally nodded. I wasn't wrong. They're twins. The Duke remained calm, looking down from his seat in the carriage. If you release her now, I can give you a painless death. But the person didn't budge. Release Lian quickly, or else this girl. The Duke spoke without emotion. What do you plan to do? Scar my daughter's face? Or cut off one of her fingers? You don't really think that by holding my daughter hostage. I'll do as you say. The Duke raised his hand, and his subtle black magic quickly knocked them down. Someone had taken his daughter hostage, demanding his cooperation, but he refused. Then with another wave, black mist condensed into snakes, wrapped around them, immobilizing them completely. This wasn't cruelty, but absolute confidence in his abilities. It's not that I don't love you. Then he walked up to them with a sinister expression. Raise your hand. I will do my best to give you the most painful death possible. The brother in the carriage also pulled out a sharp dagger from his pocket, grabbed the hostage-taker's family member, and said, Father, I'll kill him now. As the twins were about to lose their lives, Lei, who was nearly harmed, shouted, Wait, I want to hear their story. Both father and brother were stunned. Lei felt a bit nervous about such a rude request. She thought they wouldn't agree. Unexpectedly, her father didn't move. Fine, we'll do as you say. But since this guy dared to hold a knife to you, let's cut off his hands first. Lei's pigtails practically stood on end in fright. How is that different from killing him? If you cut off his hands, he'll die from blood loss. As the Duke's black magic was about to grab the fallen captor, Lei frantically shouted, I'm fine. He didn't hurt me at all. At his daughter's repeated requests, he had to let go. I'm not interested in murderers' stories, but since my daughter insists, go ahead and speak. The twins, bound by black snakes, knelt before the three. Lei carefully noticed that one person was completely soaked. Her brother questioned, "When did you two start switching identities? Who actually killed Boxy?" The two exchanged glances, unsure where to begin. Father had to ask Lei instead, "How did you know who the killer was?" She nervously shrugged, sweating as she changed the subject. "That's not important. Don't you want to know the whole story?" she thought to herself. These father and son's pressure is terrifying. The Duke pretended to be annoyed. "Since you insist, I feel like I'm becoming a daughter's slave." Lei breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the Duke loosened one person's bonds. He bent down, lifted their chin and threatened, "If you dare lie, I'll torture the other one until death." Her brother particularly despised their father. "Your threatening methods shouldn't be seen by Lei." Lei's legs trembled. "Never mind, I heard everything." The Duke looked at the killer. "Well then, let's begin the interrogation as my daughter requested. Tell us why you killed." "Death is too sweet." This father and son secretly tortured unforgivable murderers. They deeply believed in human evil, only having malicious assumptions about killers. But when gazing into the abyss gazes back. Unknowingly, their hearts grew colder, gradually being consumed by dark human nature. But this time, the face of both daughter and sister decided to change their minds. She insisted on hearing why these twins committed murder. The daughter doting father and sister complex brother agreed. The twins' murder method was simple. When the brother went to pick roses, he switched places with his twin. While one twin chatted with the Duke's family, the other brother, who had been lying in wait, killed the victim and made it look like suicide. He also created an alibi for himself. Lei clearly remembered that Boxy didn't scream when he was killed. He must have been drugged. The older twin shook his head. "If I had done that, you would have discovered it long ago. After all, you're very clever." "I used a handkerchief soaked in medicine to cover his mouth, made him pass out temporarily, to lure Boxy. It was actually quite simple, because he always sent my sister blue items. I deliberately brought it up, to provoke Boxy, but I don't regret it, because that bastard Boxy played with my sister Elise's feelings." Both twins gritted their teeth in anger. When they were young, their family was poor, so they had to send the younger brother to relatives. Later, the adopting relatives fell on hard times, and he ended up on the streets. That's why Lei felt a strange familiarity when she first met the brother, until the younger brother was caught pickpocketing by his brother, leading to their reunion. To give his brother a noble's life, the twins had been sharing one identity for years, taking turns attending academy. They practiced maintaining consistency. Now Lei's brother realized why sometimes his classmate seemed like a different person. Jared asked him, "Then why did you kill Boxy, your future brother-in-law?" The brother's voice was filled with infinite sadness. "Because he killed my sister." As Elise grew older each day, she became increasingly beautiful. So, wealthy young masters lined up to propose. Many said they would pay the penalty if Elise cancelled her engagement to Boxy. When Boxy heard this, he worried Elise might change her mind, so he wanted to consummate the marriage quickly. "Right, Duke," he immediately guessed the correct answer. But Lei said, "But that can't be the whole story." The brother was shocked. This 7-year-old girl was amazing, as if she had a detective living inside her. They were about to get married, yet this man was worried his fiancée would break the engagement, so he used drunkenness as an excuse to force himself on her. What's worse is, besides this man, there were several other scoundrels in that villa. Those bastards kept making him drink, and after he passed out completely, they assaulted Elise. That's why the twins took such drastic action, avenging their sister who committed suicide. After hearing the whole story, the Duke was still puzzled. "But one of you didn't grow up with her. Could you have such deep feelings?" The kneeling older twin looked up. "That's true. But we 3 siblings once lived together in the villa for a week. Those were our few happy moments. It was those beautiful memories that kept us going until now. I am the one who committed the crime. Even if you want to experiment with dark magic on me, I have no complaints. I only ask that you spare my brother." The Duke sighed. "Who's spreading rumors that I'm doing dark magic experiments?" Before facing death, the older twin had one last question. "Young lady, how did you know my brother and I were meeting here?" Her brother and father stared at her intently, seeming to expect a different perspective. She had to explain. "When Boxy left, weren't we all together? If Boxy was murdered, It means there were others on that island besides us. But the police didn't find traces of anyone else on the island. This means the killer left before the police arrived. Near our boat landing, there's a bridge. It's close enough to swim against the current. Under that bridge, there's a small hole connecting to an underground tunnel. And this is where the underground tunnel ends. Anyone who's lived on the streets knows about this secret passage. The brother thought for a moment, realizing how remarkable his sister was, deducing so much from such a small clue. Father was generous with praise. You're incredibly smart, to the point where it's unbelievable, making her scratch her head embarrassedly. Actually, the Duke had already suspected Boxy's death was murder. He planned to investigate, but his clever daughter had already taken interest. He looked at his son Jared. What do you think about this? Surprisingly, Jared patted his sister's head, smiling gently. I can understand how these brothers feel. Father looked disbelieving. You, brat? Jared nodded. Yes, because I'm also a brother now. He turned to face the twins. Though I don't want to think about it. If anyone dared to harm a hair on my sister's head, I would be furious. The next moment, he smiled and put his hands on their shoulders. Honestly, I want to kill one of them right now to quell my anger. Just imagining my sister being hurt makes me laugh angrily. I want to practice on one of those kneeling here. How to make someone feel worse alive than dead. But I'll let it go this time. My sister is present. He asked for his sister's opinion. Letitia, you decide their fate. The girl was startled, then considered what would happen if they were freed. Father saw right through her. You want me to let them go? If that's the case, I'm even less inclined to leave them alive. That's what happens when you have a petty father. The Duke deliberately put on a troubled expression. Her brother played along. In that case, let's execute these two criminals. Lei pulled at her hair in frustration. Dad was being too childish, executing them out of jealousy. She recalled the vision she had seen. The twin sister was truly pitiful, killed by such scum. That scumbag deserved to die. So she raised her eyebrows and said sincerely, I only hope the Duke can make a decision he won't regret. Because Lei knew what kind of person the Duke really was. Not as glamorous as he appeared. He punished evil doers. A melancholic hero. He never pitied criminals. But Lei still hoped the Duke would reconsider after hearing this story. She didn't want the Duke to leave any room for criticism, because the twins were different from the criminals he had killed before. The Duke looked down at Lei, showing a genuine smile. Actually, I want to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known the story behind this. Lei smiled happily. She had actually helped someone. And after hearing Elise's story, the Duke indeed changed his mind. She reached out to shield the twins. Then please don't kill them. Let the police handle it. But the next moment, unexpectedly, the Duke suddenly approached the twins. Do you remember those bastards who hurt your sister? The newly minted daughter-doting Duke, understanding the difficulty of raising girls, decided to help these twins, properly punish those who had wronged their sister. Also for his daughter's sake, to cleanse the noble circle of scum, to protect his daughter's future. But the twins were still hesitant. Could the Duke really be trusted? The man continued persuading them. Just tell me their names. I'll let you go. Of course. This is for my daughter's sake. Lei stood aside, speechless. The Duke's tone didn't sound like he was going to kill someone. More like introducing potential marriage partners. Lei's sister complex brother suddenly sat next to the twin brother, smiling. He put his arm around the other's shoulder. I like you now. Planning so meticulously to avenge your sister. I should learn from you. But if you dare speak to my sister, you might die by my hands. Then Jared leaned close to his ear and whispered so his sister couldn't hear. Your revenge plan was too lenient on those murderers. If it were me, I would have tortured them to death. But Lei still heard it. I may be young, but that doesn't mean I can't hear. He was so shocked his mouth hung open. I knew it would be like this. I thought too highly of this father and son. The Duke looked down at his little daughter. Solving a major case and dealing with some thugs was effortless for him. Those who do wrong must be punished. When it comes to dealing with scum, I'm an expert. Though Dad and brother hadn't told him, Lei had read the novels. He knew Dad used black magic to absorb power from humans. Those whose power was absorbed became his food. The Duke usually chose 3 types of food. First were murderers, second were the recently deceased, and third were those who harmed innocent women. Because abusing women was more unforgivable than murder. In the Duke's eyes, Those who hurt women were as hateful as murderers, of course. Lay agreed. Those who killed Elise deserved death. So this time, he didn't try to stop it. The Duke, who always punished evil and promoted good, let murderers go for the first time, because he could understand these twins' feelings of avenging their beloved sister. Just imagine if someone hurt his daughter, he would make them pay 1,000-fold. The twins cried with tears streaming down their faces, 4 hands clasped together. We can't believe we survived. It's incredible. The Duke snapped his fingers. But since you've killed before, you might do it again. So I've left marks on you. If you dare commit crimes again, I'll come for you immediately. The twins searched their bodies for the marks. Jared watched them like idiots. Don't bother looking. Those marks are invisible to the naked eye. With everything settled, the Duke called his daughter, carrying the tiny child in his arms. He sat contentedly in the carriage. Before leaving, he thanked the twins for their hospitality. Seeing their confused expressions, the Duke explained, when we found Boxy, he had just died, right? So he became my food. Lay thought back. No wonder you told me to wait a while before calling others. Jared leaned out, grabbing the door to close it. His expression was indifferent, thinking that Senior Boxy was such scum. I no longer feel sad about his death, but since I knew him, it feels a bit odd that my father ate him. The twins were bewildered. What does this mean? Are this father and son crazy? In the moving carriage, the Duke was in high spirits. Cleaning up scum really improved his mood. He looked at his daughter, attributing his good mood to her. Indeed, every time I go out with you, we discover many interesting things. Then he looked down, studying his daughter with an inquiring gaze. I know what kind of person you are now. Lay's braids stood on end, wondering if the Duke knew she was a transmigrator. But the Duke excitedly exclaimed, "You're a genius, an ordinary little detective genius." Lay couldn't handle being praised by truly intelligent people. It felt like showing off in front of experts. Besides, she had the advantage of being a transmigrator. She quickly waved her hands explaining, No, those were just my guesses. I didn't expect to guess so accurately. The father and son seriously declared, "My daughter is a genius." This scared the girl into quickly explaining, No, I was just guessing. I didn't expect to be so accurate. Her brother calmly said, "Don't lie. Once is chance, twice is." Lay wouldn't dare show off. Admitting to being a genius in front of these two high-quality humans would be too embarrassing. Brother crossed his arms and listed his arguments. A child who never received education, whether text or pictures, can remember everything at a glance. Lay waved her hands. If I were really that capable, why would I have been begging on the streets before? After all, I can't even read all the characters. Suddenly, her attention was drawn to the scene outside the window. 2 young beggars on the street covered with thin blankets, shivering. If not for the Duke adopting her, she would be one of those freezing people too. This winter is especially cold. Lay's expression turned sad. Her brother appeared thoughtful. Every time they passed this street, his sister would become upset. How could he keep Lay happy? Lay composed herself, sat back in her original position, hugging her panda and mumbling, "I'm not a genius. I'm just an ordinary person." The Duke didn't take her words seriously. Never mind. A test will tell us. When Jared was young, he met with several doctors. They can determine if you're a true genius. Enjoying the Duke's petting, Lay turned pale. She couldn't help thinking negatively. After the test, the Duke would surely know she wasn't a genius. Would he then refuse to acknowledge her as his daughter? As night fell, the carriage finally arrived home. The butler stood at the door as usual, bowing in greeting. He carefully noticed Lay's dejected expression while the Duke looked proud. The butler curiously asked if something had happened. The Duke was so pleased his tail would have reached the sky. He rarely felt this proud in his life. He couldn't help boasting to the butler, "Many things happened today, but the biggest discovery is that my daughter is a genius." The butler slowly raised a question mark. The daughter-obsessed father had finally gone mad. She knew her intelligence was above average, but so what? Until today, she was very surprised to discover that his daughter was also very smart. He couldn't contain his joy and had to brag to the butler, "My daughter is a genius." Holding his wine glass, the Duke looked elegant and noble. The smugness on his face was actually pride in his daughter. The butler blinked twice, listening very seriously to the Duke talk about the young lady. He almost gave a standing ovation for the young lady's clever actions. The person in question felt so embarrassed. Being called a genius made her want to bury her head in the ground. She angrily ate large mouthfuls of food. She finally understood how it felt in her past life when she only got 80 points. But her mother had to brag about it to the whole neighborhood. That embarrassing feeling. After dinner, she lay on her 200 square meter bed feeling very depressed. What if the Duke discovers I'm not a genius? What if he kicks me out? While she was worrying, her brother knocked and entered. I came to check on you. How are you? Lei thought her brother was being strange. Nothing special had happened lately. Brother looked concerned. Why do you always become sad when we pass the intersection in the carriage, hugging her inseparable teddy bear? Her expression turned sorrowful. I used to live in that alley. Every time I pass by there, I remember the days of hunger and cold. Just thinking about that bone-chilling wind makes my whole body feel cold. Brother bent down to look at her. Anything else? She glanced at her brother. Gradually opening up, she said, I also think about my friends. Brother sympathetically patted her head. She pretended to be at peace. But don't worry about it, because I agreed with them. We would forget each other. Brother finally understood. She lay on the bed, silently sighed, and opened her gradually plumper hands. She fell into a daze. Today when she touched the Duke's hand, she saw visions. It was through these visions that she confirmed there were actually two culprits. And they were twins. She was full of questions. What exactly was that? And why did she see those visions? When would they appear? How should she use this ability? Hugging the panda Dad gave her, she fell asleep amid her worries. She didn't want Dad to call her a genius. It was too embarrassing, like showing off to experts. She thought Dad had forgotten about it. But one day, while she was drawing in front of Dad, Dad suddenly said, Letitia, would you like to go out? She suddenly raised her head, face full of excitement. Like a puppy hearing about going outside, she almost wagged her tail. Where are we going? Dad? The Duke flipped through his newspaper, amused by his daughter's happiness. Maria has been telling me that you really liked the cafe we went to last time. I happen to have business nearby. The word, cafe, completely struck Lei's heart. She imagined many little cakes waving at her, like a puppy eagerly grabbing its leash. She zoomed out of the room. I'll go change clothes, making the butler anxiously shout behind her. Young lady, please slow down. Let the servants handle such matters. Lei stopped abruptly, feeling a bit embarrassed. Oh right, I was too hasty. The daughter's pure excitement infected the Duke too. He sat on the sofa, resting his chin, happy that everything was ready. Lei was dressed beautifully. Wearing an elegant capecoat, she carefully asked the Duke, can you hold my hand while we walk? The old father was instantly struck. He lifted Lei up, holding her tight, almost wanting to kiss her cheeks. You really know how to be cute. But Lei actually just wanted to test if she would see visions again when holding hands. Holding Dad's strong hand, she saw nothing. The little one silently sighed in the carriage. This superpower was truly unpredictable. After the carriage traveled for a while, it finally stopped in front of a research institute. Lei looked at her father with disdain, having a bad feeling. Duke, hadn't you forgotten about calling me a genius? Indeed, dads are all liars. In my previous life, he tricked me about going for pork cutlet, but ended up at the dentist. She shook her head frantically in refusal. I don't want to go in, she cried loudly. Duke is a liar, but was still dragged in by Dad. The doctor at the door smiled, welcoming the father and daughter. The Duke temporarily left his daughter with the doctor. I still have business to attend to. I'll leave first, but the bodyguards will be waiting outside. If you dare mistreat my daughter, you'll regret it. The doctor immediately promised not to be disrespectful to Lei, but Lei was anxious. Grabbing the Duke's clothes, don't go, Your Grace. The old father patted her head. I have business to attend to. Be good. Dad had lied about going to the cafe for cake, but instead brought her to the research institute to do tests. She puffed up like a blowfish, lowering her head in silence. The doctor standing nearby couldn't help but laugh. This made Letitia even angrier. I'm angry right now. How dare you laugh? The doctor quickly apologized. I'm sorry, but you're just too cute. You look just like a lost puppy just now. Lei glared fiercely at the doctor. I'm not a puppy. Having her anger interrupted midway, she suddenly felt embarrassed to continue being angry. Looking at the doctor's hair, she curiously said, I thought all doctors had gray hair and were elderly. The doctor smiled with eyes curved. Actually, I just came of age. I acquired much knowledge at a young age, and people call me a genius. The Duke wants to confirm if you're also a genius. That's why he brought you here. I can help you. Noticing the little one's unhappiness, the doctor quickly explained, don't misunderstand. Both the Duke and I are doing this to help you. but Lei responded seriously like an adult. I appreciate your kindness, but I don't need this kind of help, because I'm not a genius. The doctor was completely won over by Lei's cuteness. Don't worry, young lady. This happens often in noble families. For example, foolish parents thinking their children are geniuses bring them here for testing. Lei felt like she'd been hit, but the Duke isn't foolish. He's very smart, the doctor said while shuffling through drawer files. Many parents think their children are geniuses, but such expectations often fall short. However, those parents have impure motives. They all want to use their children for certain purposes. The Duke is different from them. Lei couldn't hear anything else. Just the words, expectations fall short, were enough to make her imagine being abandoned by the Duke for not being a genius. Dad insisted his daughter was a genius, and tricked her to the research institute for testing. She was troubled, knowing she wasn't a genius but being treated like one. What if she was exposed and thrown out of the Duke's mansion? Just then, the genius doctor bumped into the table with a loud crash, startling her out of her melancholy. Are you okay? The doctor waved his hand, dizzily touching his head. If there's no blood, it's fine. I actually bump my head often. Lei never thought that as a child. She'd be worried about an adult. Though this guy looked handsome, he was quite clumsy. The doctor then took out a diagram. Lei found it interesting. He asked her, how many times would you need to draw blood to exit this maze? Then came numbers, questions about cause and effect, and context in passages. Lei could answer some questions, but others left her confused. She hadn't studied properly in either life. She died too young in her previous life, never went to school. Now Lei was staring at the chessboard, thinking. Finally, she carefully told the doctor, the princess can't get out of the chessboard because the first knight destroyed the path, right? The other end of the road was also robbed. The doctor fell silent this time. He stood up and told Lei, I'll go calculate the test results now. Please wait a moment. Lei looked unconcerned. The result definitely won't show I'm a genius anyway. Geniuses are those who have photographic memory and can make inventions. Geniuses can remember more than 10 digits and calculate mentally. Only people like Einstein can be considered geniuses. But remembering what the doctor said earlier about parents discovering their children aren't geniuses and being disappointed, Lei deflated like a balloon onto the table. She guessed. The Duke is so persistent about testing my intelligence, probably because he wants me to help him with something. If I can't help him, will he be disappointed? Will he kick me out of the Duke's mansion? Even if he doesn't kick me out, I might become the family's scapegoat. Growing sadder by the minute, she clutched her little hands and began to sob. She desperately hoped the test results would be delayed. She wanted to stay at the Duke's mansion longer. She waited at the research institute for 3 hours. Her father, who promised to pick her up soon, finally appeared at the door, covered in sweat. Her pent-up emotions suddenly burst forth. Dad anxiously asked what happened. If the doctor had said something, she shook her head. No, I'm fine. But she was still just a child, unable to control her inner gloom. Her tears flowed like Lanzhou noodles. I'm sorry, I'm not a genius. Dad froze. You're crying because of that? Were you bullied? He quickly wiped his daughter's tears. Lei honestly told Dad, I couldn't answer half the questions the doctor asked today. My memory is just average. I can't help you at all. I'm so useless. The Duke was surprised, wondering when his daughter got such ideas. He pulled his daughter into his arms. He gently comforted Lei. They say daughters make fathers' hearts flutter, and that's really true. I don't expect you to help me. I was just worried about you. You know, everyone in our family is very smart. Jed and I are the best examples. We often skipped grades or graduated early. Lei lay exhausted on Dad's shoulder, her eyes swollen from crying, barely open. She felt wronged. But I'm different from you. I'm not your biological daughter, the Duke explained patiently. True geniuses often commit suicide or suffer from depression because their extraordinary minds don't match their bodies, so they often become very unhappy. Lei stopped crying and listened seriously to Dad's explanation, though not severe. Jed had myasthenia when he was young. That's why I thought if you were a genius, we'd need to prepare in advance, just in case. You're exactly how I hoped you'd be. How could I not be happy? What parent wouldn't love a child who's both smart and adorable like you? Lei felt Dad patting her head, buried in his shoulder. She wanted to cry again, but this time from being touched. Dad gently patted her back. It doesn't matter even if you're silly. Your only future task is to spend the family's money. You can definitely do that, right? This father actually hoped his daughter wouldn't be too smart. Better to be a bit silly. So his daughter's only task in life would be spending the family's fortune. Lei laughed at her father's words. Your Grace, you have such a strange way of comforting people. The man smiled at her. So you're not crying anymore? Lei blushed a little, feeling embarrassed about crying in front of her father. Wiping her tears with her sleeve, the Duke smiled and asked, shall we go to the cafe now? Being extremely fixated on cake, she cautiously asked, you won't trick me this time, will you? The Duke, touched by his daughter's cuteness, replied, of course not, I promised you. Order whatever you want, I'll buy it all. Lei had already decided what she wanted, just chocolate cake, but the Duke added, Letitia, the test results don't matter. When the doctor comes out, we'll just have a brief chat and leave. By the way, he really didn't bully you, did he? The doctor, who had just entered, heard the last sentence, and became nervous. Holding a pile of documents, he greeted the Duke. The results are out, though it's a long story. The Duke looked at him reproachfully. Then make it short. I need to take my daughter for snacks. The sharp gaze made the doctor nervous. Though the young lady isn't a rare genius, she shows exceptional abilities in certain areas. Her talent could at least be classified as gifted. The Duke, who had prepared himself for his daughter being ordinary, suddenly stood up, slapping the table repeatedly. What does that mean? Explain quickly. The doctor was terrified. Well, the young lady has a gift for languages, and excellent expression abilities. Considering she can't read and hasn't received much education, her reasoning, observation, and reaction abilities are quite good, not bad, and her memory is better than average. Surprisingly, although the young lady has never studied arithmetic, she's very sensitive to numbers. In other words, her talent is quite rare. The doctor daringly added, young lady, it seems you should study hard, to not waste your talent. Lei was so shocked her jaw dropped. The Duke smiled happily. Just as I thought. I knew my daughter was a genius. Lei quickly corrected her father. The doctor said gifted, not genius, but the Duke remained proud. There's no real difference. You're naturally smart, and with your adorable appearance, how could you not be a genius? Someone actually wanted to be alone with his super ultra adorable daughter. The Duke's displeasure was written all over his face. Can't you say it here? The Institute's doctor, under pressure, showed a friendly smile. The young lady can only speak freely when her guardian isn't present, so please wait outside. The reluctant father pouted until his daughter consoled him. I'll go in first and come out soon. He thought anyone who saw Kalen's expression wouldn't dare harm him. Carefully, she followed the doctor into the inner room. Countless models, books, and strange experimental equipment filled the room. Lei was excited. What are all these? The doctor seemed distracted, still nervous from the Duke's threat. This is my private research room. I've done research in various fields. I can provide gifted education courses for you. Seeing the young lady's curious expression, he couldn't help mentioning, though the Duke loves his daughter so much, he probably won't agree to send her to study so far from home. Not noticing what the doctor said, she looked around, feeling something was odd. The doctor nodded approvingly. So you've noticed already. This room is the final test. Now, let's relax and solve the last puzzle. Lei nodded seriously, her chubby face full of anticipation and eagerness. The doctor said, you just need to find the hidden question in this room. She observed carefully. Brown bookshelves and desk, guest chairs, tables of the same size. This room's structure was identical to the previous one. If you removed the documents and other items, they would be exactly the same. She wondered if this was a spot the difference game. What were the differences between these two rooms? She suddenly noticed something suspicious about a painting on the wall. Although both paintings inside and outside were landscapes, the one outside showed a crossroads, while the inside one depicted circular railings and flower beds, literacy and circles. She thought carefully, then smiled innocently, asking the doctor, is there a book on the shelf with literacy and circle in its title? I can't read all characters yet, so I had to ask. The doctor remarked, truly gifted indeed. Though you can't read much, you can still follow the clues through details. This book's title is Literacy and Language. The doctor smiled and pulled out a book for Lei. The girl didn't relax. Wait, the doctor mentioned following clues, so this book might not be the final answer. So she carefully responded, I don't think this book is the final answer. Looking closely, she noticed that where the book was placed, There was a circular mark. This circle seemed to be engraved. Now there were 2 circles. And 1 cross. If the cross symbolized addition, did it mean adding or combining the 2 circles? Lei suddenly became alert. That's right. It's the symbol for infinity. She asked the doctor, "Do you have a book called Infinity, or any book containing these characters?" The doctor suddenly became extremely excited. He pulled out a long hidden book called Infinite Love. Opening it revealed only a note inside. "Well done." The doctor praised generously. "Actually, literacy and language was also an answer. But I didn't expect you to think so thoroughly." There were several more test questions, but the Duke must be getting impatient. "Let's end here." Lei chuckled softly. These questions were really interesting. The doctor pointed to the "well done" note. "It has my institute's address on it." He gently patted Lei's shoulder. "Smart children like you will gradually realize how different they are as they grow up. I went through the same thing. My job is to help these special people. If you ever feel lost, come find me. My institute's doors are always open for you." Lei thanked him sincerely. The doctor kindly reminded her, "By the way, whether you're smart or not, the Duke doesn't mind. He's proud of your talent. That's why he's so happy." A big exclamation mark appeared in Lei's small head. How did you know what I was thinking? Her earlier worry about not being smart enough to help her father turned into secret joy. No wonder the Duke was so happy. He was proud to have a daughter like her. Suddenly, a bang came from outside the door, startling both of them. The impatient Duke warned, "You've been talking for so long. It seems suspicious." The Duke's intuition was right. This seemingly casual doctor wasn't actually the real doctor. After the Duke and his daughter left, the doctor revealed a sinister expression. "She really is an interesting child. If she had thought a bit more, she might have found the correct answer." Taking out the red flower symbolizing serial killers, the doctor showed an intoxicated expression, then pushed open the bookshelf, saying to the real doctor in the laboratory, "By the way, there was another puzzle, finding the real doctor." The fake doctor felt a bit regretful. He hadn't found the final answer. It seemed there was still a lack of imagination. If he witnessed more cruelty, his imagination would surely soar. He would definitely become an extraordinary person. Taking off his gloves, Dr. Jaw revealed a red flower mark on his hand. Let's turn back time a bit. Just now, when the Duke left his lovely daughter, what mischief did he get up to? At a funeral, a despicable man was eagerly listening to street gossip. Percy couldn't forget his fiancée, and eventually committed suicide. He scorned Percy's foolishness, thinking with money, women were easy to come by. He tossed away his cigarette, feeling incredibly relieved. It was better that Percy was dead. If he knew what we friends had done to his fiancée, things would have gotten messy. Just as the scum was gloating, a hand wearing black gloves firmly pressed his head against the carriage floor. The Duke, like a grim reaper harvesting heads, spoke in a merciless voice. "Hello, I'm your friend." Introduced by Percy, black mist formed into snakes, tightly coiling around the scum's neck. The Duke pronounced his crimes. "You, called pirate, during some perverted games, killed a girl, then used money to cover it up. Besides that, you're involved in many cases of female abuse, 15 cases in just one incident. But for me, trash like you is like a gift." The Duke's black shoes stepped on the scum's back. He smirked and asked sarcastically, "Why so quiet? I thought you might have died from suffocation. Then I should start enjoying my feast. Living prey is always the most delicious." "Oh right, this might hurt a bit. Bear with it, since you're a beast. You deserve to die like one. Now that I have a daughter, I must prioritize dealing with scum like you." Adjusting his tie, the Duke took out his pocket watch. His daughter's test should be ending soon. Eager to pick up Letitia, to apologize for being late, he took his daughter to a cafe. With a grand gesture, "I'll take all the cakes here." But Lei firmly shook her head, resisting her love for cake. "No need. I can't eat that much. Just one chocolate cake is fine." The Duke suddenly became serious. "Really?" Lei thought carefully. The test used a lot of brain power. "So maybe 2? Seeing her shyly hold up 2 fingers, the Duke had to turn away, holding back his laughter. Then he told the maid, "I want all chocolate desserts here." Lei picked up her fork and knife. "Then I won't hold back." She chewed like a little chipmunk, while asking the Duke, "Where did you go just now? You seem in a good mood. Your tie is different too." This tie wasn't tied by Shiwen, was it? Because Shiwen is very good at bow ties and neckties. But this one is tied rather hastily. The Duke lowered his head, silently marveling at his daughter's intelligence. "After dealing with that scum, I fixed my clothes." Her observation skills are so sharp. Brushing it off, the Duke suddenly said. Letitia, I love you so much. Just stay like this forever. Lay looked at the Duke puzzled. What do you mean? The Duke praised. You don't need to do anything, because your mere existence is already perfect. Lay covered her face, almost steaming with embarrassment. Thank you for saying that, but I still feel a bit shy hearing it. The Duke smiled broadly. As long as you're happy, I don't mind saying it any number of times. Looking at Lay, the Duke had only one concern. When would she finally call him Dad? After finishing dessert, as soon as they opened the door, her brother and the butler appeared. She was extremely excited. Did you come to pick me up? Today is really a wonderful day. But when passing through the alley where she once begged, Lay's expression turned unusually sad. She suddenly noticed something was different. She rushed down the street and found a tall building before her. The sign at the entrance read, Lay's Home, a haven for children, with fireplaces and toys inside. This was prepared by the Duke and his son. Brother said you always get upset when passing by here. Lay happily lowered her head. Brother dispersed Lay's true nature with one sentence. Father is actually trying to please you, so you don't need to be too grateful to him. He just wants you to call him Dad. As for me, you can call me Jed or brother. Tears in her eyes, Lay hugged her crouching brother. Dad, brother, thank you. I'm so happy now. Because I'm the Duke's daughter, and Jed's sister. She hugged her brother again, thinking that even if they were sometimes intimidating, it didn't matter, because she really wanted to be part of their family. Remember the twins that Lay saved? Their method of killing was actually taught by the doctor. When the doctor heard that Lay was the one who discovered they were the killers, he ordered the twins to send a red flower to the Duke's house. But the twins didn't comply. Instead, they left a blue rose, representing their respect, remorse, and gratitude towards Lay, while also serving as a warning. So the two hurriedly tried to board a train leaving the capital, but were killed by the doctor just before boarding. Their bodies were tied to the clock tower, blue roses stuffed in their mouths. The Duke and his son found it suspicious, but they didn't care about others' lives. They only cared about their own concerns. The Duke instructed the household to never let Lay know about the twins' death. Otherwise, she would surely cry her heart out. But his mood was somewhat off. Strange. Why do I feel like I'm being challenged? He once again instructed the butler to strengthen Lay's protection. She must not go out alone. The butler strictly complied, but couldn't resist Lay's pleading, agreeing to let her stay out a bit later. Lay disappeared in a flash. The butler hurriedly stopped the young lady to put on another layer of clothes, so Lay ended up looking like a chubby little ball. She finally discovered the note left for her by the twins. Has Leon been here? Back in the warm room? Lay was drawing. This was homework from her tutor. The butler generously praised her drawing of the cathedral. The Duke particularly likes this building. Would you like to show it to him? Lay blushed. No way. Dad is very artistic and good at painting. If he sees this terrible drawing, he'll definitely make fun of me. The butler smiled kindly. Any drawing you make is perfect. Lay pouted and teased Shiwen. You sound just like Dad when you say that. The butler smiled shyly. I just think your drawing is really cute. Lay looked at the warm fireplace, suddenly asking, Shiwen, besides playing with me, you have lots of work to do. If this continues, I'll surely be scolded by Dad. After all, playing with me isn't your job. The butler smiled helplessly. Actually, it's quite the opposite. If I don't keep you company when the master and young master aren't here, if they find out I'm not taking care of you exclusively, I'll be scolded. After finishing her drawing, Lay started writing. She became drowsy while writing poetry. She accidentally fell asleep. When she woke up, Dad had tucked her into bed. He placed her on the sofa, smiling and saying, why are you getting lighter and lighter? At this rate, when will you ever grow up? Though if you stay this petite forever, I wouldn't mind. I love little creatures that can't leave the nest. After putting her down, the Duke went downstairs to receive guests. Suddenly, he caught Shiwen acting suspiciously. Shiwen, what are you doing? The butler was unusually nervous. The Duke grew more suspicious. Hand over what you're holding. The butler kept backing away. I was just taking young Mrs. Homework back to her room. The Duke became more insistent, extending his palm. Since it's you, are you saying you were sneaking a peek? The butler frantically tried to explain, but the Duke wouldn't listen. Grabbing Zywen's arm, give it to me like a good child. The young master joined the fray. Let me see your homework. The butler sighed helplessly. The topic is, sounds I like. Rumble rumble. I like the sound of rolling wheels. It means Dad is coming home. Knock knock knock. I like the sound of knocking. It means Jed is taking me out to play. Swish swish swish. I like the sound of washing dishes. It means Shiwen is preparing food for me. My favorite food is chocolate cake. Father and son struggled to hold back their laughter. The handwriting was crooked, and there seemed to be a spelling mistake. The Duke seriously analyzed it. Indeed unique. Quick, call the best scholars to analyze this poem. Jed also praised. Most impressive is how she tried to use rhyme. The structure is quite orderly, though ruined by that last line about chocolate cake. Only the butler was on the verge of tears. Flustered. Please keep this secret. Don't let young Miss know. One wanted to take the paper, while the other wanted to find a suitable frame for it. No one paid attention to Shiwen. Both agreed the poem was worth collecting, so Jed suggested to his father, "Why don't you cast a preservation spell first?" The Duke nodded, agreeing completely. Suddenly, the Duke turned to the butler angrily. "By the way, Shiwen, you're quite bold." The butler shuddered in fear. "I really didn't mean to peek," the Duke said. "You even appeared in this poem. How annoying." Jed glared at his father. "I think something else is more irritating. Completely unfair. I spend the most time playing with sister. Yet why does father appear at the beginning of the poem?" The Duke sighed rather smugly. "That's because I'm the head of the family." The butler coughed contentedly. "I'm honored to be ranked third. Please return the poem. If young Miss knows you read it, she'll surely be angry." The father and son couldn't understand. "I want to print this poem for everyone to see." The butler coolly reminded them, "If you do that, when young Miss grows up, she'll resent you forever." Jed understood. "It's enough that we know how adorable Letitia is. I'll praise her well." The only sensible butler sighed. "Young master, that's not appropriate either." He tried to persuade them. "If young Miss receives too much praise too early, her poetic potential won't fully develop." But a few days later, Lei discovered that dad and brother had read her poem. Angry, she blurted out, "I hate dad and brother." With a clang, both their utensils dropped onto their plates. The Duke frantically shook his head. It was all Zywin's fault. Lei grew even angrier. "How could you blame Shiwen? He would never do that." Jed seized the opportunity, shaking his head. "Indeed, father was the one who peeked at yours. Please forgive him." She finally saw through their thick skin. Finally, she left behind her favorite food, and returned to her room, fuming. She threw a combination of punches at her blanket, embarrassed to the point of blushing. "They actually read my poem. I don't want to live anymore." She discovered their sneaking just in time, because brother asked if she wanted to study poetry and literature. Dad said from today on, all after-dinner desserts would be chocolate cake. She clutched her blanket. "Although I shouldn't have left it lying around. They read it without permission. I should at least acknowledge them." She was so angry she didn't even eat the chocolate cake. It felt quite regrettable. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Lei immediately dropped the blanket, pitter-pattered to open the door, but she suddenly turned around. "No, I'm giving Dad the cold shoulder right now." The Duke deliberately teased her curiosity. "I have something very important to tell you. About your schooling." Lei anxiously opened the door. Dad stood at the doorway, grinning like a fox who got the cream. "You finally came out." She crossed her arms, puffing her cheeks. "You need to apologize first." The Duke pretended to be pitiful. "But I've never apologized before." Lei felt a bit scared. "Was I too harsh? Although the Duke always spoils me, I might have been too protective this time." But the next moment, the Duke picked her up. "But since the most noble young lady is angry, I must certainly apologize. I'm sorry, Letitia." Lei carefully studied the Duke's expression. "If I hadn't caught you, you wouldn't feel guilty at all, would you?" But she didn't mind too much anymore. Father and daughter touched foreheads. The Duke smiled and said, "You truly are Daddy's precious daughter. Only you can move my emotions." Upon learning Lei would start school, Auntie came early to the house, being very particular about the dress Lei should wear to school. "This dress is perfect. Don't you all agree?" one of the aunts said, finding matching colored ribbons to tie Lei's pigtails. But Auntie insisted if she's dressed too childishly, her classmates would want to look at her. "Better do a princess hairstyle." The Duke seemed unconcerned. "Just wear the best clothes to school. That's all. My daughter is the most beautiful woman in this world. Now, it's time for society to know this fact." But Auntie shook her head, pointing out that children her age are thoughtful and very sensitive. After all, it's her first day of school. Can't be too flashy. Lei nodded in agreement. I like the clothes Auntie picked. The Duke became jealous. So my taste isn't good enough? Auntie happily pinched Lei. You haven't been corrupted by this family's bad influence. And you're so well spoken. How adorable. The Duke brought out his brotherly authority. She's still young. Her skin is delicate. Don't pinch so hard. On the first day of school, Dad and Auntie took her to the best private school. But Auntie was worried. Although ranked first, the school wasn't that big. The Duke frowned. My daughter is so smart. She must attend the best school. In the classroom, Lei was polite, but the noble students ignored this transfer student. As soon as the classroom door closed, they began mocking Lei as just a lowly adopted daughter. One prince even boasted, 1/4 of the people here have royal blood. Why are you even here? Lei didn't understand, looking confused. This was my father's decision. If you're curious, I can go back and ask him for you. The blonde girl blushed with embarrassment. To regain the upper hand, she pointed at Lei's nose. We are the true noble ladies, the future leaders of society. Lei felt a bit disappointed. These children, supposedly well-educated nobles, were so unreasonable. She lost interest in making friends, perfunctorily replied, well, you must be really amazing then. The blonde girl said, we're going to perform a play, but you're not invited. Lei responded indifferently, that's fine. I won't participate. I can be your scriptwriter instead. One of the children asked in surprise. What's that? The blonde girl quickly hugged them and whispered, shush. Don't ask if you don't know. Otherwise, she'll look down on us. Lei specifically gave an example. The children were speechless, but they thought Lei was amazing. The blonde girl proudly refused to admit it. She immediately gathered her companions to discuss. This is terrible. Although she's cute and kind, a commoner wants to join our group. One girl anxiously shouted, it's your fault. You said the Duke's adopted daughter was a commoner. Must be a terrible person. So we should exclude her. What should we do now? As they argued, it was revealed that Dad's ex-girlfriend had been secretly damaging her reputation, saying she was evil, and manipulating the Duke. The blonde girl decided to make an exception. If you have a pet, you can join our gathering. Lei was furious, but as the Duke's daughter, she had learned the art of subtle sarcasm perfectly. Though playing with you would be fun, I'm content playing follower games with my brother at home. That's enough. Seeing the blonde girl didn't understand, she had to explain. I wanted to be your friend, not your follower. Then she bumped the blonde girl's shoulder as she left. At dismissal time, Dad came to pick her up. Classmates gathered at the window to peek. Only then did they truly realize how high the Duke family's status was. Dad asked about everything that happened at school, and if she was happy. She said she was happy, but her expression looked like she might cry. She didn't want Dad to know school wasn't going well on the first day. But the Duke persisted. Lei finally told the truth, mentioning she needed a pet to join the classmates' gathering. But Lei was understanding and said it's fine not to participate. I'd rather spend Saturday with family. After saying this, she carefully watched his expression. Dad, are you very busy? Can't you rest on Saturday? The Duke seemed thoughtful. Actually, you can both attend the gathering and spend quality time with us. But that Saturday, Lei stared in amazement at the so-called pet. The Duke calmly explained, his name is Pee-Pee. Just call his name or pat his head, and he'll obey. The butler also smiled unusually brightly, seeming to anticipate the classmates' screams. Young miss, don't worry, Pee-Pee doesn't bite. Then the butler immediately pushed the hesitant Lei onto the carriage. Just then, brother appeared in full dress. Letitia, I heard everything. Lei gaped. What had these three men discussed? It was just about classmates looking down on her. Was such a big response necessary? Brother said, I'll go with you. I can help improve your relationship with classmates. While the nobles were showing off their cute pets, Lei appeared with Pee-Pee. Pee-Pee was a bit disobedient, dragging Lei forward. The nobles were terrified. Lei held Pee-Pee's neck. Pee-Pee, be good. But Pee-Pee curiously approached the blonde girl. She fell to her knees begging, don't hurt me. Jed appeared like a shining fairy. The blonde girl stopped crying, blushing as she looked at Jed. Young Master Jed, don't misunderstand. I want to be friends with your sister, but she rejected me. Jed responded indifferently. Princess Rufine, even if you're noble, you need talent to establish yourself in the palace. Are you 4th or 5th in line? So there are plenty who could replace you in the royal family. But the Duke's house has only one duchess. Letitia, a noble should know their place and not be dislikable. These words made Rufine shudder. Jed greeted his sister with satisfaction. Letitia, come quickly. Everyone's about to cry with joy seeing you. Hugging Pee-Pee, Lei, with grace matching Jed's, said, Rufine, thank you for being so kind to me. I didn't know you were a princess before, so please excuse my behavior. She smiled brightly. Let's get along well from now on. While stroking the big cat's head, her tone carried a hint of ice. Just like Dad and Brother. Brother was right. It is boring here. We'll be leaving now. Dad wants us back early. Oh. She paused her departing steps. Next time we meet, don't forget to smile. It would be better if you do it first.